Greetings, Earthlings and humans, clones, otherwise, whatever, and as well as all sentient beings and animals who love the sound of my voice. Please keep sending me those videos of your animals loving on my podcast, and just knowing, so grateful that there's a sound of a human being who actually speaks the truth and has pierced this unified field of bullshit, this planet of lies, horseshit, and insignificance, talked as if it's significant, hence Kamala Harris. Anyway, today's show is a banger boom show. And I'm so excited because we're going to break it all down for you and tell you what you got to do. Everybody's asked me, well, okay, if these are the problems, what should we do about it? So here I am to tell you, welcome to the Roseanne Barr Podcast.
Oh, you see, my patience is growing thin.
When I've said before, I only interview geniuses, and I've kept my promise to do that. Well, I got me another genius to talk to today, and he's on, I'd say like 5th level genius, and I'm so happy to have him. Hi, Jovan Pulitzer.
Jovan.
How you doing?
Is it Jovan? I said
No, that's
after
my
all
fault.
that practicing.
No, that's my fault. I thought it was Jovan. I should have told. It's my fault.
Jovan
Jovan.
Pulitzer.
He goes
Hi,
by
Jovan.
How you doing? Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. You can call me whatever you want.
It is technically Jovan,
Well, because
Yes,
we
it
have
is,
a
technically.
friend that has the same name, but anyway,
but it's
yours is Jovan.
He's Americanized.
Jovan is a cool name.
Thank you.
And I just saw you on my girlfriend Mel K show too.
Isn't she wonderful?
How brilliant is she?
I call her the warrior princess. She's like Wonder Woman. She's it.
Yeah.
Can you believe that brain of hers?
She is. When it comes to breaking this stuff down and digging deep and really knowing how this evil works, she's it. She's the top of the pyramid.
She
I
is
agree.
the top of the pyramid. Another woman who's really a digger deeper is called Magalit with Brenna J, who I can't get a hold of. But man, she goes deep. She called everything that's happening now 2 years ago.
Wow.
She's emailed
Everything.
you.
I know, but she never answers
Yeah.
me. I got her back. I go, come on, let's talk. And then I don't hear from her for months. A lot of people are like that. A lot of us who are on a 40,000 view world
Right.
are a little bit autistic, right?
Absolutely. I think it takes. You have to be autistic and off to do what we do. I believe
Right.
it helps you. It's a gift.
It is a gift. Now, you being a genius and an autist, which everybody who's any kind of respectable anon or digger deeper is one of them.
Right.
Because you get a hold of a bone like a dog and you ain't going to let that bone go.
Right.
Till you get every piece of meat off it, right? And that's how we are with information.
Until you can explain it to yourself. You got to dig deeper. We want answers. That's why when we were growing up as kids, we got in trouble for asking why.
Yeah.
And then the second question, but why?
Right.
Yeah.
Right? It's the way it is. You got to fill in those holes that are in your brain, and you need information to do it. So we tend to dig, and we dig very deep.
And because it's amazing, because I told you my grandson Cosmo, he said, Mom, he asked me, he goes, I don't understand why everybody hates the Jews. All we are is nerds and autistics. Why do they hate us? And then it became clear to me that everything the Jewish people and, others too, but everybody who suffered for a long, long time under persecution of states,
Right?
artificial states too,
Correct.
of pharaohs and royals and bosses and owners, everybody who's suffered under those, I think God made us that way and made us suffer that way so that we would be autistic in an age of information.
We live in the greatest access to information in the world, and at the same time, they've taught everybody to rely on 140 characters in a headline or tweet. That's it. And yes, all our wounds, our Swiss cheese as Jews searching for answers, and just the why, what is it, has become our greatest, should we say, weapon or tactic we have, is to look and try to fill those holes and understand. And it's through our trauma that has led us to become warriors for understanding. And just look at the people that have changed the world that come from Jewish backgrounds.
Well, we have to change it for the better this time, because a lot of a lot of Jews who changed the world, maybe it wasn't necessarily for the better of everybody.
Well,
But
you can
I
have-
think this time we got to do it for the better of everybody.
I think we just have to realize that Jewish intellect and history has been hijacked
It has.
because people didn't understand handlers.
That's correct.
Right, so you had great minds that
Pharaoh
were
and
tapped.
his handlers,
Right,
yeah.
you had
Mhm.
great minds that were tapped, but we had handlers. It was the handlers that went wrong. But here's how I look at it: what
Just like
happened
today.
in 2020 was one of the greatest gifts mankind has ever been given.
Interesting.
Because we don't learn unless there's trauma. We don't take our shoes off to get on an airplane just because somebody decided it's because somebody got on an airplane with something in their shoes that could take us down. We only learn by trauma.
Right.
Now what's happened in 2020, we now know more about elections, more about laws, more about the rat bastards and how they do it, how they're enriching themselves and our eyes are open. And so this is like God passing judgment. Are you worthy of that free will? And that's where we are right now. And then on the Jewish thing about using it for good, yes, we have to use it for good, and we have to refuse the handlers.
Yeah, because in Exodus they're called the Erev Rav, the good teachers of bad information who lead us astray,
Right.
and use us as their fulcrum, their leverage to enrich themselves. And you know how they get rich? By killing the rest of us and stealing our money.
That's right.
It's
right.
such a scam.
Well, Ma, you know how we always talk about how important it is to get life insurance
Yeah.
because, you got to protect your family. And you also always talk about it a little different than I talk about it. Mine's about, protecting my children. Yours is about watching the ID channel and planning to murder your husband. We come from different walks of life, you and
Well,
I.
they all get insurance policies, but that's what trips them up, and that's how they get arrested. So.
That's true.
But I do believe in leaving something behind for your kids.
You better.
Even if they're brats like you. I think, insurance is a necessary thing if you're a parent.
It's
Or you're
absolutely
married or have any kind of family. You want enough money for them to bury you at least.
40% of people that have life insurance, the people that are finally smart enough that want to set up their kids, they start late. I don't have one yet. I'm in my 40s, and I'm going to set up
You
my
should
kids.
get it. Why don't you have it?
No, I'm actually going to contact this
good.
company after the show. It's funny we talk about
Well,
it.
you have 2 kids. You can't be without insurance.
Absolutely not. And 40% of people that do have life insurance wish they had started sooner. So we tell everyone to go to Policy Genius. I'll let you tell them where to go. But this is not something to wait on because you got to start making your payments now to build it up. And life insurance is super, super important. So if you want to tell people where to go,
Yeah, don't put off getting life insurance. Make it easy with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com.
and what I like about them too is they'll work with you. It's not just like this faceless bureaucracy where you call and say, I want to do it. You'll call them, they'll talk you through it. You tell them how many kids you have, what you want to pay, and they'll tailor it to you. They're a great company. So
Don't tell them that you want to take it out on your husband and, set yourself up for failure when, you give them the antifreeze and the orange juice like they do on the ID channel.
yeah, another tip from Roseanne.
Right.
And nothing's changed until time right. I think God's testing us. Here's what I think.
I do
think,
too.
in ancient times, God talked through the prophets or whatever the case may be, and they went out to a few. I think if I was to look at this from a godly standpoint, this may be the first time in history that God's talking to every one of us. God's given us sight to every one of us. But what's coming into play is our free will. Are
Right.
we going to exercise our free will? Because, see, I believe evil and darkness, angels and demons, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
has always had an agreement. Evil must tell you what they're going to do.
Yeah, they must. Because
And
then
we be- and we
or
be-
else you won't be afraid.
That's right.
And they feed on fear.
There you go. And silent is consent.
Yes.
And so since I truly know
Wow.
that, the veil is thinner than it's ever been
it is.
right
Yes,
now,
absolutely.
we can see through and see this spiritual war.
Absolutely.
And so what's finally coming down is we now understand this unseen of angels and demons and light and darkness, and that the darkness must tell you. That's why they tell you, we're going to rape your kids and turn your boys into girls or your girls into boys. They tell us.
Mm-hmm.
We now know it is our own silence that brought us here.
That's right.
This is not a bad cabal that took us over. This is a bad cabal we freaking gave permission to
Yes, we did
by
with our
our
silence.
inactivity.
Wow.
Silence is death.
That's
Amen.
right. So why 2020 was the gift we all got. And God's going, okay. And here's what I say. Look, Jake, have you ever run a foot race?
When I was younger, I can't do
Okay.
it now.
Did you win or did you lose?
Half and half?
Half and half. Have you ever run like a 5K?
No.
Have you ever run a marathon?
No.
Have you ever run against maybe 10,000 people?
No.
100,000 people?
No.
Well, the reality is you have, and we don't look at it right. You probably, unless mom says otherwise, you ran a race with 1 billion potential yous
Right.
when it hit her egg.
Right.
Now, I just want you to think about that for a minute. You were chosen in God's terms to be the winner. Out of all the different versions you could have been, or all the different times in history or in your life you could have been here, or in ancient life for you to come here, he chose to put you here now. That to me tells me you were chosen here to fight this fight.
I agree.
Period. It is up to us to understand if we believe we're not given more than we can handle. We were all chosen here. We're doing this. You're in the iteration of what you are because you were hand chosen to fight this fight and to be a voice. And that's the deal. People have to realize we are what they're afraid of. Why do they suppress our speech? Why do they cancel us? Why'd you get booted on YouTube and defunded? Because they can't have people's eyes open.
Right.
And so when you understand, everybody watching, it's you that has the power. It's you that has them afraid. And they use cons to suppress us. And we willingly let them suppress us because you think you can't do anything about it. It's your one voice. When you get brave enough to speak the truth and you get past the crap, we were all taught, don't talk about politics and religion, which
Right.
are damn things we should have been talking about, right?
Yeah, it's the only thing that
When
matters.
you realize it is you they are fighting.
Yeah.
President Trump said they're not after me, they're after you. When you understand what's called the one voice. Let me give you an example. You might one day decide to turn on, like you did, you're going to turn on the cameras, you're going to turn on your phone. But let's say you're a grandmother, right? And you turn on a phone and you just decide this isn't right and here's how it was when I was a kid. Well, you never know what God might have that one gamer for one weird reason, here's your broadcast, and it finally goes click. And that's the kid that has 2 million followers that believe this shit.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you make them rethink. And through your movement, just because you made a choice, you got to the person that actually changed our destiny. And that's what every of this is about. And that's why you have to speak up and
happens to
speak
me
out.
every single day.
You better believe
I
it.
get the phone calls every day. So I think be louder with your.
I did
ear
it quick. I'm
next time.
sorry. I
But,
can edit it out.
And so I'll put it out again since you said it, because I felt like you said it because God put it in you to say so I
That's
could
right.
hear it.
There you go.
But it was, because I really think that it is up to the grandmothers. They got a lot of free time and they got a lot of money.
You better believe it.
And it's time for us to get together and be the judges of what they've done to our country and demand that they allow us to use our constitutional rights and follow the Constitution, which was created by some very intelligent men that knew how to run a government.
Which was divine.
Yes, which was
Yeah.
divinely inspired. And also from the Iroquois Nation is where Benjamin Franklin got his idea of representative government.
Which was divine.
Yes, which was divine. By grandmothers. It was a grandmother's council.
I always say women are going to win this force or lose it for us.
We need to win it and return to the grandmother's council that regulates, our own families, our own lives, where our food comes from. Every law, because that's how the United States was meant to be, that
That's
it
right.
came from the people.
That's right.
It didn't come from the oligarchs and the Hollywood stars to tell the people, well, you aren't going to be on the cool side if you don't do this.
Right.
And to brainwash all the young people to pretend they're cool too. Well, they're not cool. They're just stupid-looking ghouls.
They're lost.
And the grandmothers need to start smacking their ass in line, and they can.
It's like that one lady that sees her son at a BLM march.
Oh,
and
I
she sees
loved
him in the
her.
crowd,
Video
and she
ever.
proceeds to beat his ass all the way home.
It's the
You
best.
better
I
believe
think
it.
she's the greatest patriot of
That's
this
it.
age.
Right there. Amen.
Right?
Amen.
So you're not going to go to prison and be used by them,
That's
which
right.
is what they want for you. Plus that, and when they start instituting the draft, the first kids are going to take his BLM over to fight in the Ukraine.
Yes.
Wake up. These grandmothers know it. We know because we've seen it 2 or 3 times in the cycle.
Right.
We have to take control.
Right.
That's what we're here for.
Very, very much
The
so.
Bible says in Judaism that when they was waiting for Moses to come down and the heir of Rob, the evil ones, they're the ones that said, we got to build a golden calf to Horus, the Egyptian god. And they told all the Israelite women, you got to take off your nose rings and your bracelets and your earrings, and so we can melt them down to this idol. Well, there were 600,000 women who said, And then Moses came down, and
That's
then,
right.
all hell broke loose. But in Judaism, it says that those 600,000 women took an oath to each other that the next time it get really bad, they're coming back, their spirit will come back, and it wouldn't just be 600,000, it'd be many.
Right.
And they would be here to lead our way back to God's voice
Well, that's
on
right. A
Mount
direct
Sinai.
connection. Right. A direct connection with God, which
A
we all
direct
have.
connection, which we do have, but they keep telling us we don't.
Well, that's what Jesus got killed for, because he said, you see this, you see all this, you see all the temples, or whatever you want to put in Christian terms, when he says, you don't need this crap. You have a direct connection. They were not going to allow that.
They still
and
hate
here's
that.
the deal. We, to this day, have a direct connection
We
of
do.
how our country goes, because it's our God-given right.
That's
and we're
right.
going through the same deception all
the
over
very
again.
same, it's that time again.
Yes.
It's time to leave Egypt.
Yes.
Yeah, well, all that came after, but when people decided to leave slavery in Exodus, that says 2/3 of the slaves did not want to go.
No, because they
They
were
were
comfortable. They
comfortable.
were fed, even though they were suppressed. And people don't realize that
They were
today.
getting their benefits.
Democrats.
Well, look, slavery's worse today than at any.
Yep.
They only said 1.6% of people in the United States actually had slaves, so that's a con. But we won't go there. But the fact
That
is,
is a
we're
con.
enslaved more. Debt, credit cards, keeping up with the Joneses. Here's what you wear. Here's
Surveillance.
what you must be. It's crap. It's all
Trafficking.
crap. Slavery, and rap music. You see good kids with good talent, good voices. All of a sudden, you see them a few years later, and they're tattooed and demonized and teeth
Disney
tickled with
stars.
diamonds and
That's
stuff.
all they're allowed to do by their owners.
That's right. They need to look a certain way to inspire thuggery instead of
Because they got to have somebody put in the prison and then send
There
to
you
the
go.
army.
There you go.
Two
And
things.
It's like just disgusting. That's a system of slavery.
Jake's
Mind slavery.
throwing referee flags on
No,
us
I
because we
just-
could go on forever.
I just want you to introduce yourself because who you are and where you come from, just because we're going to get into it. And then before we do
I
that, real
think he
quick,
just said who he is
Well,
very
I mean-
well. But where he comes from is you have about 10,000 patents and you've done all these great things. The GRC code,
QR.
whatever the hell,
Right.
on the phone.
Grandmothers.
And-
That's why they can't do
Shut
shit.
up. And then you figured out how to treat cancer. I mean, you've done.
Well, I'm a conundrum. I'm a nerd hiding out in a biker's body, right? And so God gave me a gift. But I tell people, and by the way, a press story wrote this one time long ago and used it against me. I said, God loves me twice. And what I said was, God gave me gifts.
Yeah, he did.
But he actually gave me the insight to use them, because there's a lot of talented
let's be
derelicts in
really
the thing,
real.
right?
God gave you trauma that you fought and
You better believe
liberated
it.
yourself
That's a
out
gift.
of, and it made you way smarter.
You better believe it. And I turned the trauma, looking where the next attack's going to come from. When's the next shoe going to drop? I learned
360
to
view.
step out and look. And it's through that I can see the various patterns and stuff I can. And I can see where things are broken. And in the invention world, I create things. Like, I'll give you an example. When you go to an airport and you don't use a boarding pass anymore and you do it on your phone, that's me. When you go through a toll booth and you don't throw change anymore, you just got the repeater in your card, it can link to your credit card, it knows who you are. Those are all my patents. I just understand how things work, how to make them simpler, and understand patents is the ability to see the future where everything's headed, because you
Right.
got to be way ahead of the curve.
You have to have foresight.
And those are my gifts. And I can understand where it's headed, what do we need to do, what needs to be created, and how can we solve this. And that's what happened. I was doing medical work. I was working in the nano field to see cancer and to see disease states and to be able to treat even common colds before they become a problem. It's like we were talking, a woman doesn't need to feel her breasts and all of a sudden find the pea of cancer, right? The size of a pea. That's when it's technically too late. You want to find it when it's a fraction the size of the grain of sand. But we don't have technology to do it. And then when it comes to medicine, it's about money. It's not about curing.
Right.
We were talking I have a lot of patents on what's called lateral flow chromatology. You know it as the birth test you wee on to see if you get the blue line. It's called lateral flow chromatography. You can tell every disease state in the world by urine.
Oh.
Prostate cancer, you name it,
Yeah.
by urine. And the cost of the test to produce an average test 2 cents.
Wow. Well, Ma, TWC, the emergency medical kit, something we talk about all the time. I love it. And it's one of those things that's kind of funny to push this product, because we do a podcast and we have sponsorship. But this one's so important that we would be pushing this anyway. Even if we weren't doing a podcast, we'd be telling our family.
Everybody should have one of these. You got to have the meds for all the stuff they're going to try and unleash on us with the coming election. Who knows what they're going to do to us, right?
Absolutely. And we lived through it with COVID, and we saw that there were medications that were helpful that the pharmaceutical industry buried, and you couldn't get ivermectin. They called it horse paste. So that's why this company
Remember
came
Joe
about.
Rogan talking about it, and they tried to take him down? And it turns out, everybody was telling the truth, and everybody who was telling the truth got censored.
That's what happened. So Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Drew have been on the show. Because of that, they started this company, the wellness company, and they said, we're going to get meds to people, the meds that work, the meds doctor recommend. We're not going to let the pharmaceutical industry or the WEF or all these evil corporations tell us what to do. So they started this company. We've been selling these things like hotcakes. And
you don't have to be scared if you're prepared. I'm always telling you that. The wellness company created the medical emergency kit, and every home in America should have at least one of these because they're packed with life-saving meds, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, it's
go.
hard, antibiotics like amoxicillin, and even a Z-Pack, which is super
all good shit.
antibiotics. It's all backed by experts like Dr. Peter McCullough. In times like these, having your medical emergency kit's not just a luxury, it's a necessity. Protect your family by preparing ahead. Head over to twc.health/RB and use the code RB to save $30. Don't wait till it's too late and then you're in a panic. Act now, have control in your life, and ensure that you're protected against whatever they got coming at us next.
Right.
That's twc.health/RB. Use the code RB. Save $30 free shipping right now.
But do you know why they do blood testing only?
Money.
So they can charge $5 or $6 grand.
Oh,
And that's why they don't develop. And I'm in that whole industry, and I'm developing for that industry because everything's become a racket. And so it was in that, in understanding how to use nanoforensics, nanoanalytics, and I was training cameras on mobile phones to do a lot of this work in diagnostic, that when I saw all of this stuff go nuts with the election, I knew I could look.
2020?
Of 2020. I'll tell you, let's go back to October of 2020. Bernie Sanders goes on Jimmy Fallon's program.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Fallon asked him, so what do you think's going to happen with the election?
I
Here's
remember
what Bernie
this.
says. And he says it real quick. Well, we don't know what's going to happen, but Trump is going to be winning. It's going to be big. He's going to claim he won. But then you're going to go to bed at 10 o'clock, and then you're going to wake up and find that Biden's your president because of Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. He names every state and says it's the ballots, and it's the mail-in ballots that did it because it took them forever to count, which I can show you was a total joke.
Of course.
And then he says Trump's not going to leave office.
Right.
Now, that was a week before the election. Now, I never saw Bernie with the On More Work on the Psychic Friends Network. Did you? How the hell did you know that? Down to the time they would stop counting to the exact states.
Yeah.
And it's because there's all messaging and they all know, and they knew it was going to be mail-in
It's
ballots.
November 3rd, and it's been said that we won't know the results until days later. When do you think we'll know the results?
All right. Jimmy, you raise an important point, and I hope the American people understand it because this is something I worry about. My view is every vote must be counted. For reasons which I don't have the time to get into tonight, you're going to have a situation, I suspect, in states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, other states, where they are going to be receiving huge amounts of mail-in ballots. And unlike states like Florida or Vermont, they're not being able, for bad reasons, to begin processing those ballots until, I don't know, election day, or maybe when the polls close. That means you're going to have states dealing with perhaps millions of mail-in ballots. Here is my worry. What polls show and what studies have shown is that for whatever reason, Democrats are more likely to use mail-in ballots. Republicans are more likely to walk into polling booths on election day. It is likely that the first votes that will be counted will be those people who came in on election day, which will be Republican. And here is the fear, and I hope everybody hears that. It could well be, and I don't know what's going to happen, nobody does, but it could well be that at 10 o'clock on election night, Trump is winning in Michigan, he's winning in Pennsylvania, he's winning in Wisconsin, and he gets on the television, he says, "Thank you, Americans, for re-electing me. It's all over. Have a good day." But then the next day and the day following, all of those mail-in ballots start getting counted, and it turns out that Biden has won those states. At which point Trump says, "See, I told you the whole thing was fraudulent. I told you those mail-in ballots were crooked, and we're not going to leave office." So that is a worry that I and a lot of people have. So the results, we don't know what's happened. Maybe the results will be on election day.
When you were talking about consent earlier with evil, we talk about this all the time. There is, and not to go too far off, but a satanic consent thing where, what's it called, Ma, where they throw it out there, and if you don't reject
Well,
it,
they
it's
have
consent.
to tell you what they're
But
going to do.
It's a tenet of the satanic religion.
Yeah.
Do you know what that's called? Did you know about this?
Yeah, no
But it's a
shit.
real thing. So anyway,
Yes.
to what you said earlier, that's interesting that he did it a week before and no one said
There's
it.
there's even more that, he nailed it. He nailed
Yeah.
the states, said it would be the ballots, said at 10 o'clock you're going to go to bed because they're not going to be counting. How would he know?
Right, they never
and
stopped
it's
to count
because
before.
it's all agreed.
Right.
But they, on that side that are trying to take us over, they must state it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
When
saying.
Biden said we put together the
greatest
largest fraud
voter
network,
fraud.
Yeah.
he wasn't misspeaking.
No, he wasn't.
He was telling the truth.
That's why they hate him, because he lets it leak out. I said, he's
Right.
such a bad liar.
Right.
He doesn't even give a
Right.
shit. He goes, "Yeah, I'm starting a war with Russia. What the hell are you going to do about it?"
Right. They call it directly like it is,
Mm-hmm.
and we have been taught not to pay attention to
Right.
their words, like the use of our democracy. Democracy is going to go. Well, we're a constitutional republic.
Right.
And
Right.
democracy is rule of the mob.
That's right.
And that's their constituents in the street.
right.
They're burning all the shit
That's
down.
right. Everything's about words. That's why there's white supremacy now. Everything is about. Well, I'll give you an example. We all knew there was trouble in 2020. We saw the crap on TV. We know there was issues in the elections. But let's go to William Barr, who we thought was going to do the right thing.
No, we
Now
knew.
you heard Barr on television say, we looked into it. We put investigators, I'm paraphrasing, into it, and we took a
He
look
worked
at it.
for Bush.
And yes, he did. We did not believe there was enough fraud to make a material difference in the outcome of the election. Now, let me explain what that means.
Oh, good.
If you and I were sitting in Georgia, let's say hypothetically, that's our state, and our candidate lost by 100,000 votes, and we knew it was dead people and illegals and everything like that. Now, you and I partner and do this, and we investigate, and we find all this illegal stuff, and we come up with 90,000 absolutely confirmed illegal aliens voting and dead people. And now we go over to the Attorney General, Secretary of State.
Can I just tell you what my younger son said?
Sure.
He said, "God, if all these dead people are voting Mom, don't you think they'd be pro-choice?
Or pro-life.
They'd
Very
be
true.
voting Republican, not Democrat."
They'd be voting Republican. You're
Pro-li-
right. They'd be
pro-life.
pro-life. They want to live again. So think about this. So you and I find 90,000. Now here's the deal. Ready? We judge every one of these rat bastards by our standards.
That's right.
And so what
They
you
don't
do,
have our standards.
they do not. So here's what happens. We walk into a Secretary of State or an AG, and we said we found 90,000 illegals voting and dead people. Now, we know our candidate lost by 100,000. We think logically they'll go, holy smoke, we can't have cheating in the elections. Let's fix this.
Right.
No.
That's what we
enough.
would do.
Right.
Here's the rules on the books.
Wow.
It is required for you, without their help, to be able to prove your case, how it determined the outcome of the election, and have enough. So if you and I walked in with 110,000, they're going to try to knock off 10,000 as not valid to get us back under that 100. Why?
Not enough.
Because it's not enough to make a material difference to the outcome of the election. And that's exactly how the law is written.
Snaky as fuck.
Yeah, you better believe it. It's
What'd you call
horrible.
You
it?
know why, though? Because they believe, Marxists, who are Luciferian,
Right,
they believe, well, that first of all, they think Lucifer's smarter than God,
right,
and that he's the enlightened one,
right,
not God. God's a dummy to them.
right.
It's like
Yeah,
that-
we've all been lied to. That's what they say.
Yes, it's the big
Yeah.
lie. Beauty and sexiness and appeal and the power of the airways.
Yeah. Which is mind-blowing because they're on the other side. They're not like us.
No.
Uh-uh.
No.
And so they think that those of us who believe in God and law and the Constitution and like the Constitutional Republic of the United States
Correct.
of America, they think we're the Nazis.
Right.
That's right.
That's why they keep on saying white racists or whatever they say.
White supremacists
They
and Marxists
think
and Nazis.
we're the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so they, as the actual Nazis, must put us in camps, gas us, kill us, take away our right to vote, nullify our vote, put us in prison, manufacture evidence against us that's fake, like they did to Trump,
Right.
to save the world
Right.
from Nazism. So they, the Nazis, believe that they must use the Nazi system to rid themselves of the subhuman Nazis,
Right.
those they call Nazis. They, the Nazis, must brainwash everybody to think people who are not Nazis, which is a lot of Jews,
Right.
they, the
And patriots.
Nazis, claim the Jews are the Nazis and they must get rid of them through gas, manufactured evidence, false imprisonment, jury and vote nullification,
Right.
in order to save them, the Nazis, from Nazism.
Right. Well
That's
said.
the hijack of the words.
Yeah.
Let's look at all our collective kids.
And they're the lovers of freedom.
Right.
it's
It's
actually
work makes free. It's Auschwitz.
It is.
yes.
Work makes free.
It's Orwell too.
Right.
It's Orwell,
Well, think
too.
about this. We stopped teaching math. Right.
Yeah.
We have entire school districts and states
Yeah.
can't do math.
New math.
They stopped teaching history.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
how they can now call us Nazis and do what they do
That's
by
right.
not teaching history. They stopped teaching cursive writing and reading. Now, when you do that, you can't read original documents, biblical documents,
Yeah, they
etc.
don't want
It's
documents.
all dumbing down so
Yeah.
they can replace the new
Change
narrative.
so they can change the internet
It's
and
just like,
whitewash it.
well, that's what's going on right now with the
The
Trump
assassination.
assassination. You
Yeah.
put in Trump assassination, you don't
It
find it
can't
on
come
Google.
up.
And I told people a week ago, look at that one photo where President Trump has just been shot. He's down. Secret Service has him down. He almost looks like he's praying, blood
Yeah.
tickling down his cheek, and you see the American flag. I said, that's the photo. Now they're actually making it where you can't find it. Everything they say we do
Is
is
what-
projection is
yeah.
what they're doing.
what they already did.
It's what the Nazis did. They took over the media. They took over the press. They persecuted you, etc. They are following the blueprint that
Yeah.
they've learned through history
That's right.
to actually put us in. Now what we have is this great concentration camp of we can't think, we can't speak out, or we're bad, we won't get services, and they isolate us. But all of this has been planned for decades and decades and decades, and it's been a very slow process.
And it's working.
But what happened is, and I told President Trump this, we're sitting there, we're having a discussion, and I'm showing him all the different stuff. And he says, well, Jovan, how did I get elected in 2016? And I said, sir, because people saw you and you were true, and you gave them confidence that their vote would mean something. So people got off their asses, got off the couch and went and voted.
Yeah, they
and I
did.
said, so what Hillary's saying is, hey, we had the election rigged in my favor, but you freaking stole it from me.
Right.
I said, the linchpin has always been you. You made the difference because the people can sense who you are. They know who you are. And I can tell you, even having discussions with him, he never asked, well, how am I going to get reelected? That's not it. He says, how do we fix this for the people? What can I do now? What can I do when I'm elected? He's very focused on it because he's real and authentic. But here's the deal. The demons know
Well, because
he'll fix it.
Yep.
because he's always talked about safe and secure elections,
Yeah.
which that's the real war, isn't it?
Yes,
They
it is.
hate him for that.
Well, we've never. Well,
Question the election.
our first problems that we ever had in the United States with mail-in ballots. Do you know when that was?
When?
Vietnam.
The second term of Abraham Lincoln.
Really?
Yeah. When the soldiers were voting in, they knew that mail-in ballots were wrong, and therefore they stopped it. Now, the next thing that happened is in 1948, LBJ, right, running in Texas, running to become a senator.
You mean 68?
No, it's
48. 48.
really?
This is 48 when he's
Texas.
first running to become a senator in Texas.
Oh my God.
Okay? And so he's running a race. He gets to the end and he realizes his butt's getting handed to him. His campaign manager gets in a car, drives to West Texas, and magically finds a box called Box 13 that magically has 202 ballots in it that they missed.
Right.
Now, what's the moral of the story? That put LBJ in, and that's been used time immemorial. You're not looking at something that's new. We're looking at something that got hyper accelerated because of Trump. But it's all been a charade.
Yeah.
It has all happened right under our noses. They basically move us like pawns and do it. And that's why I knew I could expose it if we just look at the paper. So here's the premise. If you focus on the voting machines,
of 2020.
2020, 2022, 2024, doesn't
Which
matter.
I do. I'm obsessed.
Okay, so let's just do 2020.
Okay.
So you didn't vote for this recession. Americans didn't ask for inflation. Most Americans voted for Trump in 2020, but they cheated their way in. And now we're kind of in a bind as a country. And then when you factor in just how hard it is to live in America, even if Trump were president, with stacked credit card debt slavery is the
slaves.
American finance system, and that's a real bummer. So this company, we've done ads for them before, Done With Debt. They're great. They stand in between you and your creditors. You start piling up bills. You got to get your debt down. You call this company Done With Debt, or you go to their website. They'll actually help negotiate. They can get some stuff paid off. However they do, whatever magic they do, I'm not an expert. You're in debt. You're in trouble. Call these people. They will negotiate. They will get your debt down. They will help you pay it off.
It saved our lives.
It really
We
is.
didn't lose our house because we were afraid we were going to lose our house.
And not just that, like just the interest on credit card alone is what, 24, 25%. So even if you're working and paying off your debt, like you said, it just goes to interest. You're not even getting your debt down.
No, you're not.
It's compound.
Yeah.
It's
all just a big
a yank.
scam.
It's
Yeah.
a rig. So these are companies that help you. That's the kind of companies we sell on this show that'll actually help you fight back against the debt slavery system that wants you to be broke.
Yeah.
Tell the people where to go.
This is a time-sensitive thing, so you need to visit donewithdebt.com or call 1-888-322-1054 right now. Chat with one of their debt relief strategists for free. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com.
It's also important to note that they will negotiate to get you out of debt permanently, and they do it without forcing you to file for bankruptcy, because a lot of people say they'll help you and you file for bankruptcy.
Yeah,
They
you don't
don't do
want that.
that, and they also don't do loans that you'll also have to pay off down the road. They actually help you aggressively pay down your debt. So very good company, highly recommend.
Do you own a gun?
Multiple.
Okay. Let's say you have a gun in the nightstand. How many people is it shot?
0.
Is your gun going to get out of that nightstand and go shoot somebody?
No.
It's not. Now, it requires two things, okay? It requires the ammo, the ammunition, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be in the gun. Gun doesn't work without the ammunition, but it's got to have a person with bad programming,
Right.
right? Now, let's look at machines. We're all joined here because pieces of equipment, but all of us predominantly are using different forms of programming to ingest it depending upon where we're watching it,
Right.
whatever phone we have. So is it this that's making it work? No, it's software. Everything works by software. Doesn't
Right.
matter what it is. So you have to understand the machine world versus the software world. We do not in America have voting machines. The last voting machines we used in the United States of America, which really didn't have high concentration, was back when we had the Bush-Gore debacle in 2020.
Right.
Now, that was a punch machine.
Hanging chads.
So that technically was a voting machine
Machine,
because
yeah.
it's exactly pushing it and it tells it how to count it. Well, I believe now that was orchestrated.
I do too.
And that was
Sure.
orchestrated to usher in technology machines to do it. So here's how the machine part, which we'll deal with first. Number one, you always hear about Dominion voting machines or these voting machines. We don't have voting machines. We have voting systems, which you have Dominion software systems or Dominion voting systems. They are a software company. Now, when you look at what basically tallies the vote and puts it in the spreadsheet, it's actually a Dell computer.
Okay.
Now, it's a Dell computer that you can buy on eBay for about $462 that they sell to the state for about $65,000, and it's leased.
Of course.
But
10% back to the big guy.
our system is designed to be broken. It's not designed
To be secure.
to be secure.
Right.
And that's why they always tell on themselves, the moment the election was in process, they started getting on TV for the first time in history. And what were they saying? The most secure election ever. They were building the programming for us so we would repeat most secure election ever. We've never said that before time. So look at that as an outlier. See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the coincidences
Okay.
because everybody's saying, let's look at the evidence. Well, before we get to the evidence, let's just kind of go back, because what you have to do is you have to look at all the things that didn't happen before
Right.
that happened
I
now.
gotta get popcorn. I'm craving popcorn.
I'm going to have to go to the
Keep
bathroom
going.
too. This
Okay,
is
so-
fascinating.
Here's what you have. And so they said it was the most secure election ever.
Right. Which means it wasn't.
First time they ever did it.
Right.
The next part of it is it was the first time that predominantly in the United States, default, most people are going by mail-in ballots,
Right. Because of COVID.
right? Yeah. It was the first time we're trying to implement a system during, quote unquote, a pandemic. It's the first time that there were arbitrary laws in the state that they could make it under pandemic rules. And so
Yeah,
they
because
started.
they hurried and changed them.
Because they
That's
were
right.
unconstitutional.
So we can't check signatures right because of the pandemic. We
Right.
can't do this. So what happens is you start having all those coincidences. Now, one of the interesting coincidences about 2020, and everybody saw it, is you look on television, you basically see the numbers coming across the screen, and they change.
Yeah, well, I saw that.
Now,
I saw a
you
lot
know
of those.
this coming out of production. You have been in enough studios and enough production, you know nobody hits that freaking button for anything to go onto scene until that person's put up the chyron,
Mm-hmm.
a line director has checked it, a line producer has called it,
Yeah,
and then the
there's no
producer says,
accidents.
throw it on air.
No
You
accidents.
know it, I know it.
Yeah.
There are so many in between that. So why did we, for the first time in history, see it on TV? Here's why.
Why?
Because they needed to change the dialogue away from the crime into the very thing that's not enforceable. Here's how it works.
Wow.
When you saw television, the numbers change.
Right.
What you saw was what's called the Edison data. That is not the official numbers
Right.
of the election.
It's getting reported live to news.
Well,
stations.
basically,
Yeah.
it's the Associated Press and others.
Right.
But predominantly, it's about 3,000 college volunteers that are dialing precincts saying, okay, where are you now? So the first part of it is, can a number be entered in wrong if the kids are putting in a spreadsheet?
course.
Of course it can. But let's just set that aside. It is designed to create drama and something to talk about on TV. And so they used this. It became a production element, just like when Ted Turner did CNN and we get ticker tape and all that. But it has never, ever been
Official.
the election.
Right.
Television can't decide the final.
Right.
But what the system allowed us to see is numbers changing on TV. So now when you take a population that hasn't been in production like us and doesn't understand, between that number getting on the screen, there's 5 people involved, and it didn't get there until somebody freaking approved it, right?
Right.
So they don't know that. So what they think is, oh, we saw the numbers change. It's never happened in history before,
Right.
ever. Now, when you consider that, everybody started saying, they took the votes, they stole the votes,
I did.
They swapped the votes.
I shared that video 1,000 times.
Hang on, that's what you logically think,
That's
Right.
what they wanted you to
and that's
think.
what they wanted you to think. Now, let me tell you why they wanted you to think that.
Why?
Because it was a digital mechanical change. You watched it be this, it changed, it did this. Now you understand that that's all digital.
Right.
You understand that's a machine.
Right.
So everybody started then saying the shorthand,
flipping the
the
votes.
machines flipped
Flip
the
the
votes.
vote, yeah.
I
Now
said
this
that.
is your mind. It's called pareidolia. It's why you can see a face in a rock and think
Right.
it looks human. You're searching for answers. God gave us the ability to fill things in quicker, mainly to save our lives in the jungle, right? But boom, here it is. You fill it in, and so you're submitting the answer. Now these guys are so smart they knew it. But here's the real fact. Number one, in the United States of America, we don't have voting machines.
Okay.
We have voting systems which utilize scanners, printers, digital cards, softwares, and basically spreadsheets. But here's what they know. See, in America, for our elections, they basically decide on, okay, this is the approved software by which you can tally or conduct an election. It's an approved piece of software. It's approved by the Election Assistance Commission, which is
EAC.
basically a government agency.
Right.
And now it's that software and systems that's sold to states to run their elections. The companies then have pieces of equipment that are approved to run said software. Okay?
Understood.
Now, the media has taught us to say voting machines when that's, remember, in court, you got to be literal. It's literal, okay?
Okay.
So it's a voting system, but here's the deal.
That's why they sued Tucker.
You're
Yes.
well,
Yes,
that's
he
what we're
said
getting
that.
at.
But I'm gonna
Get
give
on
you
the
a,
mic, Ma.
I'm gonna give you a
Okay.
layup here.
I'm just getting this as
You're
I'm
not on the
watching.
mic, Ma.
Get on the mic.
I'm just watching like a movie. Go.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna give you it because it's so
That's how
subtle.
Dominion won. But
It is.
anyway.
It's how Dominion won.
Okay.
And
This is
I
great.
started screaming early, but I was called a lunatic. But here's the deal.
That means you were right.
In the Election Assistance Commission, which folks, you can look it up. Go to the Election Assistance Commission website. And I'm going to explain every break in the system here.
Okay.
They approve a version of the software. So let's call the software Rosie 5.1, and that's the approved software. When the state orders the machines and or systems, all they have to order is, this is the software, and we're going to run it, let's just say hypothetically, on this Dell computer. And that is technically approved. And that machine is configured with that piece of software and is sent to your county. Now, if you go to the Election Assistance Commission website, and you can read it yourself, the thing that sticks out is you've got to read the VVGL. And here's what it says. All of the rules, all of the guidelines, all of the suggestions of how you have to run your election are 100% voluntary. You can go look right now. Every rule to run the United States elections are voluntary compliance. And the Election Assistance Commission is made up
So
of...
there's no vows to the Constitution.
No, none. It's all voluntary. And the very board that makes up this body is the quote-unquote voting companies themselves. Now,
Wow.
what-
With no
Oversight.
no recourse.
No
Oversight.
vow
None.
to the United States well-being. Or
Zero.
the Constitution.
Zero. It gets worse. So the first thing you have to understand about the machines, and everybody's screaming about the machines, it'll never get a conviction. It's identical to Hillary's email, right? Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to, I couldn't do it.
Plausible
They got plausible deniability from the
Yeah.
bit and no enforceability. And especially in machines, they could say, oops, it was a boo-boo.
Right.
We didn't mean to do it.
Oh,
Now,
Didn't that
somebody
happen
made a
in
mistake.
Somebody
that happened in
accidentally
one of the
deleted
states,
some-
right?
What?
There was a flipping in one state that got in the machine. There was a vote flip.
no. What they saw was, and hang on.
Okay, sorry.
Somebody was doing it, and yeah, the vote wouldn't take.
Right.
Or the vote would go to the other candidate. But what did they get to say? It was a software bug.
Right. They did. They said
See,
it was a
that's the
glitch.
point.
Right.
That's the whole point right there.
Okay, go back. I
They
got
can't
you.
say, We programmed it and didn't want you to catch it.
Yeah, it was
They
a
just
software
say it was a
glitch.
bug.
Right.
So what they've done is they've built in the get out of jail free card into this. So when they got America to say the voting machines flipped the vote and they seeded a second word.
God, they're smart.
Oh, look, they have the best and brightest in the room.
Yeah.
And this is the handler
walk.
stuff. They go get them. They go recruit them.
Yeah.
And you either go for the dark side or you go for the light side, period.
Like
walked
Jack
through-
Smith.
Right.
You better believe it. You better believe it. You're either the token. Anyway, so they know you can't get any convictions on the machines. And so they basically chaos and game theory this out. Now, number
Yep,
one,
yep.
Wow.
Dominion, you saw Dominion executives sit in front of Congress and say, we do not make machines that connect to the internet. And you're saying, you liar mother effers.
Hey, didn't you hack a machine?
Hang on before I get there.
And
Quit talking.
I'm a huge fan of his. Sorry.
Thank you. I
It's
appreciate
like
it.
meeting Elvis for me.
But yeah, no, I'm gonna show you all this.
Sorry.
When he sat there, you're sitting at home throwing your popcorn at the damn screen, going, "You liar, you mother effer!" Right?
Right.
But here's the deal: they're not a machine manufacturer.
Wow.
Now, you heard them also say, "We do not make machines that have modems." You heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do not make machines that have modems and connect to the internet. Jake, when's the last time, brother, you bought a modem?
15 years, probably.
There you go.
Yeah.
We don't make modems anymore.
Right.
We haven't made modems and man, over 20 years.
Those motherfuckers.
Because they became integrated and they disappeared.
Right.
But what is the word they keep on using? And what is the word the media keeps on using on us? We don't use modems. We don't use modems because we take a shortcut because we understood it as a modem, but that's gone away. It's integrated circuit. It's built in.
Jesus
So when they say we don't even add modems in the machines, what are they saying? Here's what they're saying. We don't add modems in the machine because it's integrated to the freaking card. Now,
Oh, yeah.
that's the number one. So when they literally say
Jesus
we don't manufacture a machine with a modem connecting to the internet, they're right. Now, here's how they get around it. Number one, you can go to any state. If your state's ever done an audit of any kind of the machines, let me tell you how to find this because we exposed it. You look up the model of the machine they're using. More than likely, it's a Dell computer. And then in that Dell computer, you get a serial number of the machine.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got a buddy that's in the computer business, like repair business, you can look up, right, that machine, and you will find it has a warranty on it because they have to warranty them in case something happens. And when you look up the profile of the machine, you will find they all have integrated cards with integrated Wi-Fi, 5G, cellular, everything.
Yeah.
But it's integrated, which changes the game. Next.
Okay.
Now, so it's a word game. I've always told you it's a word game. Now, here's the next part of it.
It's all coded words.
All coded words. Now, when the state gets that machine, there are no rules that the state can't change it.
Oh.
It just has to arrive at the county with that software on it, which it does. So here's the rest of the rig. If the county plugs it into a network, which is what they do.
Of course they do.
What's a network? The network is the internet.
Right.
Even the software, even the manuals that come from the voting companies say, if you want to see anything on the
I've seen
machine,
these, yeah.
you must connect it to a network. You're responsible for that.
Right. American Financing Mom. This is my favorite company. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I do say it because I mean it. They're great.
You did a lot of research into it.
I've done a lot of research, and I also, like I said, I have a lending license, and I had a real estate license back in the day. This is an area I'm naturally already interested in, and the reason I love this company is because the stuff that I was running into in the lending world that I didn't like, which is what I'm going to say about insurance salesmen now, is that it kind of became a racket where people could sell stuff, and then the sellers would get a commission, just like how the real estate market works, and it's fine.
Yeah, they take their money off the top.
They do, and it's great for them and it does motivate them, but where that's a problem is that they'll start selling you stuff that makes them money and not necessarily what's best for you. So what I love about this company, American Financing, is yes, they do home refinancing. Home refinancing is something that if you own a home, you can actually basically get a loan, take out the equity. It's money. and you can refinance your house. It's nothing new, but what's great about this company is they've been in business for 25 plus years. They're family owned and operated, and most importantly, they don't
That's
take a
always
commission.
better.
So the loans you get, the deals you get, the rates you get, it's best for you as a consumer. It's not what's best for them as a moneymaker. They get the same money either way, and that's really, really important. That's
Yeah,
not
it
something
is.
to skip over. So I love these
There's no
guys.
grift.
There's no grift. And the best thing is they are well documented. They're in the Better Business Bureau. They've been around forever. You can look them up. They're legit. They're good. They're the best at it. They save people an average of $854 a month. That's their average. And if you sign up now, you might even be able to delay two mortgage payments.
Well, they say that most people, it's about 2 mortgage payments that can make you or break you. If
Yeah.
being behind 2, they can come and take your stuff. So that's really a great deal, and they must, really have done the data research to know that.
They absolutely have. And you can look them up. If you don't believe me, go look them up. They're legit.
Yeah, research everything we say.
And-
Don't just take our word for it because I'm so gorgeous and sexy.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
And tell them where to go and the number to call, too.
Okay, well, now if you start today, you might be able, like Jake says, to delay 2 mortgage payments. That's fantastic. And here's what you do. You call 866-890-8585. 866-890-8585 or visit americanfinancing.net/Roseanne.
So the responsibility is actually the county. So what do? They plug it in and boom, it wakes up. It's just like your phone going from 3G,
to Wi-Fi.
4G, or
Yeah.
wireless. It knows it's inherently built in from the time we turn it on. We don't do any of that stuff anymore.
Right.
Let's keep on going.
Wow.
So now what they do is
think of things.
they trick the county to do it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Wow.
Then when you understand it's voluntary and it's actually the county that has done it, then you understand nothing is enforceable. And so what they needed for 2020 was the great misdirection. And the great misdirection was, it's the machines. I saw the machines change the vote. I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
You did not. And that is what allowed Dominion to sue and win and shut
Fucking
everybody up. It was game played legal out to the
Oh,
beginning.
yeah, it's
and all these
brilliant.
people that said the machines, we're going to melt them into prison bars, everybody ate it up. They changed the vernacular of everybody. And one other word
Yep.
got added. Fraud. That's fraud. I saw fraud. It was fraud.
Yeah,
now,
election
Okay.
fraud.
here are the rules of the election. When it comes to election law, the only people in an election, as the election is working or has occurred or immediately wrapped, that can declare fraud are the county attorney, the state attorney general, the secretary of state, or the governor. They are the only ones that can make a declaration of fraud. Anything else has to run through the court system and be determined to be fraud,
Okay.
right? So what they did is they seeded with the American population that was fraud. Now, what it did is it changed very subtly the course. We never had attorneys that dealt with this, which is, I'll explain how that happened. We never had attorneys that dealt with any of this crap. So attorneys only mimicked what they heard on TV. Attorneys only mimicked what people say. And in their documents, they would put, we saw fraud, it was this and this and this. Now, here's the rules. When you don't understand that we have individual state elections,
Right.
we don't have federal elections.
Right.
We have state elections. But when you declare there is fraud in a state election, it falls under the jurisdiction of the Department of Justice, goes to Merrick Garland.
Oh, yeah, baby.
They trained
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
to call it fraud. And by the way, you can't undo an election that was done by fraud until you prove the fraud and it is adjudicated by a court and determined. What they did is they moved the legal words which floated up there, and that's why they say you don't have standing, you don't have jurisdiction, because you can't call it. Here's what it was. It was called maladministration.
Okay.
When you maladminister an election, meaning you didn't run it right by the rules, it's
Yeah.
100% redoable.
That's what they should have done.
100% redoable. And when you're investigating maladministration, if you find a recurrence of it, then it becomes malfeasance. So here's the difference, and here's the number one racket of all, because it's all about words. Have you ever wondered why? Let's take Brnovich in Arizona that didn't do a damn thing except screw around with his nunchucks, right? But with Brnovich in Arizona, somehow they found a woman that voted her dead mother's ballot. Now, number one, when it's the ballot's taken out of the envelope,
Yeah.
right?
Cracked, you called it, right?
And it's separated. You can't connect the voter. So the first thing you have to ask is, how did they know she did it? But bear with me. And so what they do, and this you can look it up on Brennan site because all these guys are on it, the Brennan Law site or Brennan Justice Center. Brnovich in these states will find one. They will use it as an example of how they're doing their jobs, and they'll say, we found this lady that voted Mama's ballot, and that's a crime, and we have convicted her of voter fraud. Now, the key word here is voter fraud. Well, hang on. See, they can say fraud. The key words here are voter. I'm about to blow your mind with this. And so what they do is they'll convict the person, get a jail or plea or whatever, and then they can come out and say, we've got 2.5 million voters in Maricopa County, Arizona, and we found only one person that committed voter fraud. Now they do that so they can tell you voter fraud doesn't happen very often.
Right, it's rare.
Now, put a pin in that for a minute. Voter fraud. When they illegally print the ballots, when they illegally put names in the voter rolls, when they illegally don't check signatures, when they illegally don't track the ballots, when they illegally don't, you have to understand that takes a system. Now that's called election fraud. And what is election fraud? Federal racketeering, RICO, which brought down the mob. And that's why they need people to focus on voter fraud. And they say voter fraud is so small it's not real because they need you to stay away from the real thing that's election fraud. So let me show you.
I said all along it was
RICO.
RICO.
It's 100% RICO. Grab one of these, Jake. Just grab one somewhere.
One piece of paper?
One piece of paper out of my stack here. Can you see it? Just grab a piece. Doesn't matter where.
Pick a card, any card.
Okay. So you two, grab anywhere you want. Doesn't matter.
Don't forget to be on your mic, Mom.
Okay, so we all got a piece of paper. Now we're going to do a few things, okay? Consider this a batch of ballots.
Okay.
This is a batch of ballots. Now what they say is, and you got to understand all the levels that they have built into the system, and I haven't even gotten to the actual facts and crimes of an audit. I'm just telling you how they do it. Number one, they tell you we're going to do a recount.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are three types of recounts they do. You got to dig deeper. Now, here's number one. The quote-unquote systems have a little bitty ticker tape that's kind of like the gas station receipts we get. What they'll do is they'll take all of the ticker tapes, line them up, add the total number of ballots that went through, and if all the ticker tapes equal what they said they got in ballots, they did a recount. Now, did they recount anything?
No.
Screw no. That's recount number one. Recount number two is they will take a machine, okay, and let's say the scanner, this is the scanner this time, because it goes into a scanner. They'll pull one scanner, and they'll say, how many ballots did it say it scanned? And let's say it says 1,000, okay? And then what they'll do is they'll get 1,000 ballots and they'll rerun 1,000 pieces of paper through the scanner, and will the counter still reach 1,000? And it does. And so they say that's a recount.
Just that it counted 1,000.
Yes.
Not the same 1,000.
Here's the final recount. When they said we recounted every ballot, remember it's about words.
Right. Because I remember the recount. And
Right.
Right.
We counted every
So
fraudulent ballot.
Well, not what we ultimately did in Arizona, but other recounts. They will basically
Georgia.
take the stack of ballots and they will run them through a paper counter. And if they said 1 million people voted, there better be 1 million ballots. Now, does that have anything to do with who you voted for?
No.
No.
Not a freaking bit.
You're not looking at the ballot.
No, because they're not looking at the vote.
I'm sorry. They're not
And
looking
there
at
is
the
no
individual
regard.
ballot.
Is that the right paper?
Yeah, it's
Was
just
it
the
voted
ballot.
the right way? Was it in the right precinct? Was it in the right district? So you have to understand what it
Are
is.
they alive?
That's right.
Is this Georgia?
Yeah. No,
for
this is
example?
every state.
Every
But when
state.
Georgia did the
I'm
recount.
getting to Georgia. I'm going to show you how it works because you've already participated in this and you don't know it yet.
Okay.
So number one.
But I'm going to tell you, when I ran for president, I sued the state of Georgia and won. And I keep telling Trump, look at my lawsuit.
Yes, there are so many ways to get to this, and I'll give you solutions
Okay.
as we go on. We can fix this.
Okay, good.
They just push you away from it. Okay.
We have less than 2 months or something to fix it.
Okay.
Okay.
So one of the first things that happened for me was you probably heard of me when I first came out. So this is your ballot. Take your ballot, and I want you just to fold it in half. Okay. Now I'm going to watch you while you fold it. Go ahead and fold it like you fold it.
Okay.
Okay. So you folded it. You go ahead and fold it. Now, can you see how each of you folded it differently? Hang on. I'm going to repeat.
Sorry.
Here's what Jake did. Jake went, whoosh, and he was done. What did you do? Ready? Hang on. You went,
Yeah.
and then you went this. So that's actually multiple folds. Now here's physics. Hang on. Here's physics. I realized that we can see that fold. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to take that fold out of the paper.
Okay.
Well, you can't.
Just go ahead and try it any way you want.
And fold the other way.
Okay, so you're naturally going to do what? You folded it the other way.
That's
now in
what I did.
physics, here's what you've done. You've now broken the paper twice.
Right.
You broke it one way, and now you broke it the other way.
Yeah.
So that can never, ever, 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 ever go
No, you
back
can't
to
get
its
rid
original.
of
You
it.
can't get
No.
rid of it.
No.
And so in the study of motion or physics, and we're watching TV and they're recounting ballots like this, when we should see them like this, even if they're stacked, we'll see these ripples, right?
Right.
And I'm on TV, I'm going, those aren't mail-in ballots.
Right. They should have been folded in the
Right.
mail.
Because
folds.
they weren't
I saw it
mechanically
too.
fold. Right,
Yeah.
it's perfect. So I said, look, as a
Patrick Byrne talked about this.
as a technologist, I can see that and I can develop something for it. Okay, now let me give you yours back. Okay? This is when I heard you. Okay? So first we're going to do an exercise. I want you to look at your piece of paper and I want you to look at the bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a check on it?
A check?
Do you see a pen-marked check?
No.
Now,
Do you remember when we were getting ready, when I took this stack of paper and I was using the pen?
yeah.
I remarked in here the statistical number of counterfeit ballots that it takes to change an election. And then I told you randomly choose one, which we did.
yeah.
What were the odds of you choosing one of the ones I marked was going to be counterfeited? Zero.
I would have to know how many you marked.
And that's why they do it.
Wow.
That's why they do it. That's why they do risk limiting audits, because they say we'll go in and pull a few and we'll look at them. So let me tell you what those few are. In 2018,
Wow.
to verify that the election in Georgia was run right, first off, the risk limiting audit is run by the very companies and individuals that run the election, meaning your county officials and the program software providers they use. So out of a metropolitan area of a couple of million people, how many ballots did they look at to verify the election was run correctly?
2.
500.
25.
Oh my God!
What
They
year is this?
said in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia,
Wow.
Fulton County, they looked at 25.
Fulton
For
County.
the Fulton County, sorry. For the election in 2020, their risk limiting audit, 250 ballots.
Wow.
Now, I just ran that exercise on you. There is no statistical way you can look at anything statistical, right, and find the fraud. Now, let's say hypothetically, one of us found one of the ballots
Yeah.
I marked in here.
What if I got a check?
You got to check. And you go, we found some. Well, how many did you find in that batch?
One.
Well, if we do the math on all of them, that's still not enough to what? Make a
Change the
material
election.
difference in the outcome of the election.
Holy shit.
see how
Oh,
it
they're
works?
so smart.
You better believe
God,
it.
we're dumb.
Well,
This
'cause
is all
they're
game- this is all game
lawyers.
theory.
They're lawyers.
They
with
walked
game
us
theory.
right into this trap because
There's
I've been going on
nothing
the
more
machines.
satanic than lawyers.
This is
but
horrible.
lawyers with game theory is even more
That's
satanic.
right. This is called, they combined what's called chaos theory and game theory, and they've
Yeah.
gamed and chaosed all of this out.
So we walked into a trap.
Chaos
Tucker
theory.
walked into a trap.
Let's go. You
'Cause I've
remember
been doing this.
Okay. Do you remember hearing about
My rabbi called chaos theory Satan.
It is.
It is, right?
It is.
It is
because
Satan.
you're learning to master chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you understand human nature and where human nature breaks down in chaos, and chaos becomes the tool that drives them, then you can predict all their
That's
outcomes.
why they say order out of chaos, because they create the
Their
chaos,
order they want.
and then they come
That-
up with their bullshit
Their new world order. Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Holy shit. Okay.
Do you remember hearing about the infamous call with Eric Coomer of Dominion Voting.
Yes.
Yes.
You remember hearing
Yes.
about that call?
Yes. I fucking hate that
I
guy.
was on a call. It was Antifa. It was Eric Coomer on Dominion. And they said, don't worry about this. We've taken care of it. You remember that,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
Do you know anything about the background of that?
No.
No.
Okay, here's the deal.
Just so people understand, Coomer is from
Coomer
Dominion.
is the
CEO of DM.
key patent holder
Okay.
of most of Dominion patents,
Okay.
and he is considered their top security guy inside Dominion.
Right. Okay.
Right? So he's kind of like their brainchild. He's an advanced mathematician, right? Not a good fellow. I'm not saying he's a good fellow, so
Right.
don't take it there.
Skilled. Somewhat.
Gifted
Okay.
with handlers.
Okay.
Handlers.
Handlers, yeah.
Erev Rav.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Very cool.
Continue.
Anyway.
This is the
Okay.
best podcast out
So
there.
you heard about that call.
Yes.
And then there was even, I think it might have been Rudy Giuliani, at some time we hear this call going on, said we got it for whatever. None of that was true.
Really?
No.
No.
The person who said they were on the call, now that it's all been investigated out,
Obama?
no.
No. Okay.
The person who said they heard the call is supposed to be a big technology guy. This grand, incredible technology guy, done all this stuff. Ready? No cell records, no phone call records,
Yeah.
no
Fucking-
email to get on the Zoom call. He made no recording, no witnesses, and his evidence was 5 pages of notes that made no sense.
Sounds like an indictment behind Trump.
Well, hang
Similar
on.
stuff.
That one story became viral.
I shared the shit out of it.
That person got put into every single lawsuit
Oh my God.
as evidence.
Oh.
Every single lawsuit got booted. But there was an interesting thing is it seemed like those guys always knew what the attorneys were going to try. Somebody was feeding them information of this is what the team said, this is what the team tried. But when you look at it as empirical evidence, you got to take it on face value. That's all I
Yeah.
take it on.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to believe that a top-rated, self-proclaimed tech CEO that supposedly runs as much data only second to Google, that's his claims, heard this, but yet he couldn't record the call, doesn't have cell phone records, doesn't have phone records, doesn't have the email, only has these 5 things of notes. And now he's not even going to turn over the witness that told him the call was happening. From me, from an
That's
investigator,
like Adam Schiff's whistleblower.
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. When I look at stuff like that, I'm going, wait a minute. What the hell happened here? Why didn't good people check out the facts? Now, hang on. Ready? That person, that story took off, and he was able to get into interviews and share that story. Here's what I heard. Here's what it was. Here's whatever. One interview with one good person made the next network pick it up and the next podcaster pick it up. Every one of them got sued for having that story on. It's what made Michelle Malkin leave the air. Michelle Malkin was some of the greatest voice out there.
Right.
She even just left the air. It got every network sued. But the common denominator is that one claim, I was on a call and here's what I heard. We all heard recordings. People still, but now it's non-existent.
It's a computer virus. It was planted.
Well, I think, look, it doesn't pass the smell test.
Wow.
And if you look sitting here, if you thought you're going to get on an Antifa call, even if it was you'd have your recording shit going on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would.
Feel the greens. You know it. We've done it before. It's so simple to explain. It's just 6 whole fruits and 6 whole vegetables specifically tailored to what's best for your health. And then they're freeze-dried and pulverized. So you get this little spoon, you put it in water or whatever drink, you mix it up and you drink it. It's not like...
Put it in your booze.
You can put it in your booze if you want, but the point is, it's really just vegetables and fruit.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in it. So you're getting the equivalent of 6 whole fruits and vegetables a day, which we all know is really good for you. It's pulverized. It tastes good. It's simple. You spoon it in. We have it.
It kind of takes the edge off your hunger, too.
Well, I was going to ask you, you've been taking it. What kind of stuff do you feel?
Well, I know my energy is kind of even through the day.
Yeah.
I don't have the spikes that I have to go get some more coffee to get. It's
That's
just
true.
like more even energy throughout the day. No crashes at 2 in the afternoon where I gotta go take a little nap.
Yeah.
It just kind of keeps me even through the day to chase after your kids and you and your wife and everything else and try to cook dinner. My whole life is only about dinner, what we're gonna have for dinner. But so it keeps me even,
Yeah.
And, even my stomach doesn't feel as whatever it is where I have digestive issues. It feels better. But anyway, hey, I got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. So visit fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code RB. That's promo code RB at fieldofgreens.com. Fieldofgreens.com, you're going to feel a lot more energy, a lot less stomach distress, a lot better.
You would. You'd have none of it. Nothing. And so here's what I think happened.
Jesus Christ.
Between the claims about the machines, between the seeded and Foster claimed of, I saw them flip the votes, swap the votes. Between it was the machines and between we heard the machine companies were going to do it, we all got played in a perfect storm that made everybody look away. Now, let me tell you why. Remember I told you the voting machines is you can't really prove it? But you also got to remember, anything to do with the machine, because it's voluntary, you can't prove it. But it's also a misdemeanor. When I can prove that a ballot, when a ballot is counterfeit or it's not a real person, because this follows strict laws, each one of these is a state and federal felony. That's it. Each one of them. Right? So what are you going to get the world to focus on? You're going to get them to focus on a million individual felonies that show the system's guilty? Or are you going to try to make everybody focus on the machines where it doesn't matter because you can't prove anything?
Yeah. So
they're fucking Kaiser Sose, dude.
The rub is in the mail-in ballots, right?
Yes, it is.
That's what it is.
Well, that's why Bernie on Jimmy Fallon, when we started, I told you, he says, you're going to find out it's the mail-in ballots and they need extra days to count, and you're going to find out bad. So let's just jump to that real quick.
So that's why they didn't want Bernie, same reason they got rid of Biden. They're so fucking old, they accidentally tell the truth.
Well, actually, no. Here's what I think's going on. I told people as soon as Biden got in that he would not make full term. And, of course, now he is not full term. Yeah. I'm telling you now, I don't think it's going to be Kamala. Even though it's announced. I don't.
No, that's just a place.
Let me tell you what happened.
I do, but
when you got to look at what they push. They push white supremacy
because they're Nazis
and old white guys.
Right.
Old white guys.
Old white supremacist guys.
But hang on, what did they do? They put in an old white guy.
Right.
Why did they put in an old white guy? Here's what I believe.
Because they're Nazis?
No, they're hedging their bets. Oh. They knew that enough of this is going to come out. And Trump is going to get headway. And they knew they would do a hot swap in the middle of an election with somebody younger. Because now Kamala, let's say she is, but I don't think she's going to be. Let's say it's Newsom. He's going to be able to say, that old white guy. Look, I told you. Look, this is all planned. It didn't happen. Look, what did we get post-Obama? Separate bathrooms, cut off a wiener, you're a girl, cut off boobies, you're a guy. It all happened at once. It was all planned chaos. That's why my book is Countdown to Chaos.
Fundamentally changed
it was
the
the
landscape
countdown
of
to
America.
it. And what did he tell us? We're going to fundamentally change America. We're going to transform America.
Did you notice that all those speakers who are defending the child transsexualism?
Yeah, popcorn. Yeah.
They're all a bunch of lesbians. The lesbian teachers, they just want little boys to cut off their dicks. I mean, it's so dramatic.
That's right.
Because their dad raped them, and then they become a teacher that want little boys' dicks cut off. I mean, if we don't go to the trauma of what makes people leftists and traitors against their own children and people,
that's what we got to talk about.
That's what God wants us to know.
You would never have believed medically from a medical term that a bad case of male Peyronie disease would now be just identified as an ugly labia, right? I mean, it's a joke. It is all to hyphens did it.
It's to be able to get in women's face and scream.
I told you, women are going to win this. And it's good. This is going to come down to women.
Oh, God, don't tell me that.
Sand's illegal, but it's going to come down to women.
And when I go in there and start seeing some blue-haired fat whale bitch screaming in my face, I'm gonna because
Knock her ass out.
I'm
Yes.
gonna just karate chop her right in the fucking throat.
Right? Look. I agree with you. I mean,
I'm gonna go leave these boys.
America agrees with you.
Yeah, we do.
Leave these boys' dicks alone, you fucking monster.
That's right.
You bitch.
Could you imagine? Look, we all come from our own bad backgrounds, but I can tell you my bad background. If I had a teacher that was talking about her sex with her maid or lesbian, my parents would have gone kick their ass.
They
Can
should.
you- right?
All these grandmas should go.
And now,
You're supposed to be teaching these kids to read, you stupid bitch. What is your problem? We don't care what you do.
yeah, I think even the word bitch is not enough for these people, but you know what I'm saying.
just being nice because you're here.
It is horrible. Look,
Miscreant. These
Yes.
fucking miscreants,
Yes.
Satan worshiping, baby blood drinking Democrats.
what they did is they infiltrated into everything sacred that we have. They basically
Profane.
took everything that was
They
valued.
love it. They love to profane holiness.
And they assigned their
Mm-hmm.
minions and their people into each category, and they ran their mission. And
Oh,
what they
they
did
did.
is they brought all of the tenets that connect us to our faith and being good, ethical people, and they ripped every one of them apart. It started with when they hyphenated us, African American, Jewish American. It doesn't matter. You're either American or you're not.
That's right.
Now in the community, that doesn't even work. They got to divide you further. You're Zionist or not Zionist. Words have been made evil, like Zionist. It just pisses me off,
and
right? And I
words-
see
they,
people do that.
They want words
And
to
I'm-
mean nothing.
And I'm seeing good people now,
You know
that are now
why?
buying into this Zionist shit.
Well, Zion's in the Bible, you stupid
Right.
cunts. That's
I
a
know.
word they should learn.
But
But
I
I'll
don't get
tell
it.
you what, it's all for this. And then I'm going to take a smoke break and you guys keep talking. But listen here.
You're smoking already.
Listen,
It's
here's what it
mind-blowing
is. Work makes free. That's all it is. And you know what? Auschwitz is their blueprint.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, work makes free made people go, oh, if we just work hard enough.
Yeah.
They already had it all game planned out. You will live approximately 3 months with no food or water being worked to death.
Yeah.
And people went, oh, if we work, we'll be free.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be free of a
Yeah.
body.
You'll be free of body. You
You
meet
will,
your maker,
like,
bye-bye.
like Klaus Hitler says there.
Schwab.
Right.
You will
Own
own
nothing.
nothing and you'll be happy because
Right.
you'll be dead as a motherfucker.
That's right. That's exactly it.
But you'll
I'm
be
going to
happy.
go smoke on that. I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
I
But
love
you
it.
guys can keep talking.
Yeah. Unless you want to take a break, I just.
No, I'm good. Let's go.
So 22. So
You guys talk boy stuff.
So I had tried to say this not too long ago on one of our podcasts when I was talking about January 6th and other things.
Oh,
I
my
realized
God.
that the enemy kind of waits for sort of a powder keg moment. They let you in and then they toss the match, right? It seems to me that 2020 election, the stuff with the voting machine, the switches on camera, the vote changing,
Yeah.
when you say it's game planned or game theoried, they knew how we'd
Well,
respond.
no, January 6th was game theory.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, I'm agreeing with that.
They needed grandmas to walk through so they could say they were terrorists.
Here's
No,
what
that's what I'm saying.
let's
But
go-
we were angry. We were there at the stop.
were
the
blind
steal
by anger.
because we knew that they stole the
Right.
election, so we
Here's-
were there.
Here's the deal.
But what I'm saying, they marched. They knew that we were angry. They knew we would be centralized. They knew we'd be in a location, and they
Right.
thought, "Shit, the people are rising up above us. Let's
It's
switch
bigger
this
than
to
that.
work for." Okay, well,
it
blow
goes
my
back a
mind.
little further.
Okay,
If you want to understand what happened on January 6th, now I just kind of want to go in the book so you understand.
yeah,
I am the lone person in December of 2020 saying in the last 2 weeks or the last week of December 2020, please do not go to Washington, D.C. on January 6th. It's a setup.
yeah.
And I'm begging people, and I said, I know you love President Trump and we should show your support from afar. Do not go. Here's what I saw. First off, we started seeing, for the first time in history, he's not going to relinquish power.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to change over power. That was the first rhetoric we started hearing.
Yeah.
And it was out there about a little bit more than 60 days out.
Right. I remember this.
And they kept on saying he's not gonna turn over power. He's not gonna leave office. And it came out of nowhere.
Right.
But everybody was talking about it.
Right.
Then all of a sudden we had the supposed Whitmer kidnapping in Michigan.
Right. The entrapment case with the FBI.
Right? Now we know that was a con.
Yeah.
But here's what they needed. That was game theory. They gamed that out, so they had a news narrative to talk, these people are willing to do it.
Yeah.
We get past the Whitmer thing. The guy who orchestrated the Whitmer thing, he gets bumped to run Washington, D.C. now. He's the guy on the ground in D.C. And then now you put that together with, okay, increased rhetoric. Oh, my God, now they're doing it. They did it to Whitmer. He's now in D.C. He's organizing it. And then all of a sudden you look at Bernie a different way when he said it's going to be the mail-in ballots are going to be Biden, but Trump's going to refuse to leave office.
Right.
They game planned every bit of it out, which is why Pelosi had a camera crew there.
Right.
Every bit of that was game theory planned out.
I agree.
Period. Now, I even said, okay, they're going to say insurrection first. But then they're going to have to change from insurrection because they're going to say conspiracy. They stopped insurrection and coup. They're going to say conspiracy so they can throw a wider net because conspiracy has looser rules than insurrection or coup.
Right.
This is all game theory. Every bit of that was planned. If you go back now and you watch, they always tell us
Ahead of time.
They always seed it. They get people to talk about it. They push it out, and boom, here it is. In all of this, this was a con job between what happened in 2020 is they already tell you he was going to be a criminal when they had no indications of it.
Right.
They already told you he's not going to leave office.
Right.
They had already defined that you're a domestic terrorist. They already looked at you as an audience and said, okay, these flags. To have an army, you need a common uniform, red hat.
Right.
They already put everything in place to do it. And then
Right.
when you combine that with it was the machines and they swapped the votes, they played a flawless plan on us that could never be proven, but the media would carry it. They knew stuff would be taken to court, but they needed it as eliminated as quick as they could to get it out. And that's how they did it.
Yeah.
It was all pre-planned out. And we fell for it.
I totally.
We fell for it
line,
because
and
to this
sinker.
day, people say those voting machines, I saw it, they changed the vote. You saw something on TV
Right.
that has nothing to do with the voting machine.
Yeah. It's hook, line, and sinker.
Yes, it was all psychological warfare.
Because I would argue, I said this is the number one thing to me. I've been consistent in social media and in my personal life about 2020 being mass election fraud.
Yes.
And that Biden did not receive it. Obviously, I'm hardly the only one, but the thing I would get back from family members that were concerned about my mental well-being was, well, none of the court cases went through. Trump tried to
By
try
design.
to, it was thrown out. There's no evidence.
By
But
design.
even Bill Barr, when you hear their stuff played back
By
to you,
design, yep.
you know that I never at any point thought, oh, they know better than me. I go, oh, they're brainwashed. Because they were also game theoried. They were fed the same thing on the other side. Look at your fellow Americans. They believe this voting machine. There's no proof. Tucker's off the air for lying, Dominion. They played both of us. We're all at each other's throats.
right.
The truth is, they did steal 2020. Joe
Yes.
Biden did not defeat Donald Trump, and we can prove it.
Well, think about their words.
They won't let us prove
You must count every vote.
it. Right.
What type of votes should you really count?
I don't know. What do you mean?
Okay,
Before I
let's just
answer
take
that.
their words. I'm doing
Legal?
I'm doing a regression.
Okay.
They
Gotcha.
said
Must count every
vote must count.
Every
if you were to
legal
state
vote.
it correctly, how would you say it?
Every legal vote should
There
count.
you go.
Ah.
Now that was not what they were saying.
No, every vote should matter.
They were saying every vote must count.
Right.
They knew what they were saying. And they make no distinction between whether it's a good vote, bad vote, illegal vote, whatever the case may be. It's just every vote must count. And that's how the system works.
Wow.
They tell you exactly. You and I now know, and we know now, and I shared with you a lot of what these words mean. What they really should have been saying, which they would never say, is every legal vote must count.
Right. Every legal vote should
Right.
count.
So you got to understand some of these movements. Let's talk about.
They're so
you want to
silly.
talk about what happened in 2020? You want to talk about what we're facing now? Where do you want to go?
Well, I think we've covered 2020 enough. So yeah, let's
Well, I got
move-
hardcore facts. If you want to hear some hardcore facts,
Yeah, let's
of how
stick
it's
on
done.
it. I mean, to me, it's the most because if you can prove Biden and the Democrats stole 2020, and by extension, you and I have talked off air, but we both know this and we agree. It's not just Democrats, Republicans still. They all cheat.
Republicans are just as bad.
Right.
And by the way, in my fight you got to understand, I spent personally millions of dollars
Yeah.
to develop this technology and do it. And I'm not even a citizen of Arizona,
Right.
They had to suppress the paper.
Right.
It's that simple. They had to suppress the paper. And so when you understand it, they knew that I'm the only person in American history that has looked at 2 million ballots personally and looked at 189 million ovals. And I'll give you a little bit of that history, and you should hear this. The public, just like you, when you saw me come out with it could be a fold, the public goes, oh, that makes perfect sense. Supposed to be mail-in. So the public pushed Arizona only because it had the fastest case that got to court that had standing. It's all about how you file it. Now, part of the rig for 2020 is you have to file your election grievance, depending upon the state, within 3 to 5 days.
Right.
Oh
But
my
all the
God.
courts were closed for 30 plus days because of COVID, but they still held those guidelines.
Wow.
But anyway, one of the cases in Arizona got in, so they had standing. So now in all of this, the American public, which recognizes truth, I'm just saying very simply, if it was a mail-in ballot,
Should be folded.
they should be folded. Let's just look at the folds. It will tell us the truth. America caught it, so they pushed on Arizona. So I got in this thing. They're going to choose a technology team, which is Cypher, Ben Cotton, and he's going to look at the drives and stuff like that. And then you've got Cyber Ninjas, Doug Logan's going to manage the thing. And then it was my team that we're going to do the forensics for the first time in history of a presidential election. Now, you got to understand Maricopa. Maricopa is the 4th largest county in the United States of America.
I did not know that.
It is the 2nd largest single voting block of people in the United States of
Did not
America.
know
The
that.
2nd largest. And as that group, it's even larger than a lot of states of total voters. So this was monumental. And so the public started saying, we want, which I said, I went on and did interviews, if we're going to understand what happens, we must do a full forensic audit. I already knew this little bullshit stuff wouldn't work. And so the government, the senators and stuff playing games says, okay, we'll do a full forensic audit. Well, the whole time they're delaying getting the ballots. And they start, lawsuits for this, lawsuits for that. And they don't sue unless they don't want you to find. And so I'm going to give you some highlights so you understand what that battle was. Number one is, as we're getting ready to do the audit, I was on a call with lawmakers, and they said the following: we're only going to look at a few ballots. We've decided we're just going to look at a few ballots. Now, I just ran that trick with you and showed you. Can't find anything. And I said, okay, if you're only going to look at a few ballots, I have standards. Screw you. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
I either look at everything or nothing, because I can't find anything with partiality, and you know it.
Right.
Well, what they did is they actively, collectively applaud and go, great, we got this asshole out of our hair. And then I said to them, but I want to let you know one thing. I'm just going to tell the public what you're planning. So on my program, I went out and told the public, and they got 60,000 phone calls the next 24 hours to the switchboard in Arizona, and it cratered them. They say, okay, we're going to do the full forensic audit.
Great job.
Now, that's why you got to understand, it's the people that have the power. So the people made it
Absolutely.
happen. Now, here comes the con. I'm going to show how many cons were in this. So I'm doing all of this stuff, and I get a call as we're getting ready, and they said, Jovan, because you're so controversial, would you consider not being on the ground in Arizona, because we think people are going to protest, the left's going to attack you, whatever. And I said, sure, no problem. I don't have to be there and do it. And so we're teaching everybody to do everything. And you have images of these. I did all the color teams, because if we were looking at this as a table, if you're on the green table, and I'll show you how it's set up. If you're on the green table, but I see you over here with the blue, what the hell are you doing out of your space? So I designed the colors based upon my exploration background, where I know everybody's in their right place. And then as they're doing the paperwork, let's call it the pink team, yellow team, all of their paperwork looking for everything is on yellow paper. It's so I can track and understand everything. It's the first time in history we're using forensics to do it. Well, a few things happened before we got to the audit. The first thing is they wouldn't let us look at the warehouse where the ballots were. So we fight about it. Second thing is the DNC sent in hundreds and hundreds, about 1,000 different attorneys to sue to stop it. Next, we get a phone call that says, okay, we got all the ballots gathered up. They're on a truck. Come get it. It's just sitting outside. Well, that's never supposed to happen.
No.
And I'm telling everybody inside, I'm saying, don't you dare go pick up those ballots. It's a trap, because it's all supposed to be done with chain of custody.
Right.
right? It's all supposed to be documented. Bullshit. You make them put it back, which is what happened. Then it was all arranged, okay? And we're finally getting the ballots after months of fighting, months and months of lingering. We're getting the ballots. Well, here's what you should know. First thing, there were 1,675 boxes of ballots, about 47 pallets of ballots, okay? Of those boxes, when you run an election, inside the box, you have what's called batches. And so a batch of ballots, about 200 ballots. So this is a batch. And you'll have a divider or a folder, and it has 8 batches of 200 in a box, like a regular cardboard box. All of those are supposed to be sealed by law.
Right.
So they're safe and secure. Boom. So as soon as we get the boxes, there are only 52 out of 1,675 boxes that are legally secured.
Oh my God.
52.
The rest are cut.
Hold on. No. Hang on.
Okay.
Hang on. I'll fill in the blanks for you, but I'm telling you, because it's so incriminating, it's nuts. So first thing we get the boxes is there's 52 boxes out of 1,675 that are properly sealed. All the other boxes are opened. Every single one of them. Okay? Now, when we look at the differences of the two boxes, okay? First, if I look at the 52, and you have images and content up here, if you want to put them in the 52 boxes, some things were very unique. None of the ballots were out of order. All of the ballots were aligned properly with their dividers. And every one of the numbers statistically in those 52 boxes matched, if I was to extrapolate mathematically, of where they said the election ended, of 2,089,517 votes, and that Trump lost. Those 52 boxes are exact. Also, I showed where the target on the printing was wrong. You saw that they printed the ballot wrong. There's not one ballot in those 52 boxes printed wrong. Not a single one. Not a one. They're all perfect. Now, when you investigate those 52 boxes, those were hand chosen by Katie Hobbs on election day.
Wow.
That if we audit, these are the boxes we look at.
And they're perfect.
And so what did they do? In February, they do their own audit. They looked at that box. Everything's copacetic. Those 52 boxes did not match the other, what would that be, 1,623?
Yeah.
Didn't match.
They're
Now, let me tell you
outliers.
about the 1,623.
Yeah.
None of them were sealed. Remember how I told you have
The
8
divider.
batches of 200? They have a little card in it that says what the votes are. Well, you might have that many ballots still intact. All of the vote cards for all 8 were on the bottom, and all the extra ballots were just stuffed on top, completely out of order. What they did is they restuffed all the ballots. Now, that's what they were fighting over for months, not to turn them over. So we knew all of these boxes are out of disarray. They're not held in the proper chain of custody. They're not in order. There's no way you can make heads or tail of this. Now, let's just jump forward. They started telling us way before the election. I told you about Bernie Sanders. You can play the Jimmy Fallon thing. He says, it's going to take all this
a
time
lot of
to
them
count the
said
ballots.
that. I remember.
Okay?
Yeah.
Here's the deal. In America, and now I audit everything. This is the first time every freaking movement, every letter on a page, every origin, every contract, everything's audited. That's what a forensic audit is. I'm looking at everything. And so I go, and a forensic audit doesn't make a decision. I'm just looking at paper and shit.
Yeah,
the
report.
paper will tell me what's up. I have no opinion, okay? So when we look at those boxes, what the county did, and this was common in all of the 6 states, 6 states, 6 counties decide our future.
Let's stop the vote count.
They said, we need more time to count. So let me tell you about that in Maricopa. In Maricopa, they would run 144 to 145,000 ballots every day. Remember, they have voting month, not voting day. They
Right.
start their early voting. And so they would have 144,000 as a statistical average ballots they could run through across 10 machines. They have 10 high-speed tally machines. And all the way through the election, all the way up to election day, and I gave you all these numbers, I'm looking at everything come in. Everything. So what I do is go, okay, you needed 10 days. I'm just auditing what they say. They say the vote's this. They said we need 10 extra days. I'm just auditing the words. Okay, did you need 10 extra days? When I look at the 10 extra days, basically I see 3 days where they did nothing. And then I see 6 days where one day they had about 130,000. One day they had 90. And then after that, most of them barely don't even break 3,000. And instead of using 10 machines, they only use 2. So what were they doing if they didn't run every machine, and they're really only doing 2 or 3, 4,000 a day statistically?
This is the original vote or the recount?
This is when we're looking. No, this is the original vote coming in. I'm only auditing their numbers,
Gotcha.
right, of what they said, and they said they needed 10 days to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
They're stalling.
They're stalling for time. So now I got to find out. Okay, what's going on? I got to understand, how do you do this? Well, then I start digging. Okay. How many mail-in ballots did you mail in Maricopa County? The numbers they released were 2,800,000 and change. Every freaking body who's ever been on a list. And I said, okay, I want to see the spreadsheets that showed when they were mailed. And so the first thing I noticed as we're looking at Maricopa County, for Maricopa County, they printed 4,089,000 ballots.
Wow.
Now, if you only have 2.8 million people voting, why would you print 4,089,000 ballots?
What do they say?
The Senate, the House, the lawmakers, the AG mandatorily made it where the printing company would not have to answer any questions. They gave them a free pass.
Wow.
So now I'm trying to find out, okay, how else can I audit this? Now, I'm going to tell you stuff's going to make you sick, but bear with me. I go, how else can I audit these numbers? I want to see how many they mailed out. Because we were already getting reports there'd be a lady with a house, and she got 30 ballots.
Right.
We know that the post office can't forward a ballot. That's a no-no. You can't forward it from an address. But yet, we got a field with no box that has 2,200 voters in it, but the post person's allowed to take those ballots down to an NGO 6 blocks away. How is that okay? Well, see, that's how they start gathering these ballots. So I go, okay, then here's what I want. I want to see the postal receipts in and out. So the county pays into an account for the balloteer, the ballot printer. The ballot printer mails them. That money's drawn down on to pay for it. Senate would not let us see it, would not demand it, would not let us see it, because it's simple math. Hypothetically, if you sent out a million ballots and it was $1 a ballot, I better see $1 million ding. Am I right?
Right.
And if 900,000 of them came back in and it was $1 to send them back, I better see a 900,000 return postage or net whatever's in boxes. Get it? Simple math.
Right.
They absolutely refused those numbers.
Under what standing or ground?
They said you can't have it.
And that was it?
And the GOP agreed to it. The GOP wouldn't push it. Okay? So I'm going, okay.
You can't audit.
So let's see, how else can I get at this? I want to see what's called the ballot ticks, meaning because they all run on, it's just like your cars, ticks off miles. It goes toward your warranty. They wouldn't turn that over. So now I'm going, okay, I got to see what really happened here if something was really up. So I go 2 different directions. I'm going to look really hard at the ballot printer. And I'm going to look really hard. Maybe I can get information out of the post office. Well, one of the ways that we find in investigating how somebody sent anthrax through the mail, it's a ballot mail image. Every piece of mail gets a photograph image. Okay, and so when it comes through the post office, it photographs front and back. Okay, it's the mail ballot image. It's called the mail cover program. It's been on the books forever, and they're supposed to keep all the records for 10 years, right? Always been on the books. It's an investigation technique. I knew it. So I'm making requests to get the mail cover images, because here's a few things I can do with it. I can teach computers to read every mailing address, so I will know, were they really mailing them to only the voter rolls or were they had shit on them? I can find the fat. Somebody in the post office in April of 2000 suspended the mail cover program for the first time in history
Wow.
and dialed it back to 30 days from the date of the election until Biden went in, and then they dialed it back to the regular program. So at the
Wow.
postal level, somebody thwarted the
Wow.
program.
I knew the post office was in on it. I
Yeah,
could
there was
tell
already a
that right
whistleblower
away.
that got. And remember, he whistle blew, and then the FBI showed up and basically like bullied him into retracting.
Yeah.
Not they didn't investigate what he was whistleblowing. They came after him.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing hard on every one of these to find every way that I can
Yeah.
possibly investigate it. And so
And you're a private citizen. You're not.
Well,
no, I know. I'm a private citizen, but
Yeah.
I'm a technologist, and because the amount of numbers of patents I have oodles of patents for
Right.
artificial intelligence.
But you're not a government.
I'm not a government entity.
Which
no.
is crazy. They should.
And
be
I have
audited.
to. You have to go through a background check
Right.
for them to choose all of us. And so I passed all of that. It was fine. I just said I can bring my acumen. We can figure out how to do this, and we'll know what it is. It's simple freaking math,
Right.
right? But you got to understand, if they said they mailed 2,000 or 2.8 million, and they only mailed 2 million, that's instant fraud. Boom, right?
yeah.
Home Chef, which
Yeah,
is a
that's
great
really,
company.
it's so great. I can't believe how the small amounts equal one dinner. That's the thing that's messing with my
It's
mind.
properly portioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not portioned for Jewish families. It's portioned for normal people. But what I love about them, just so people don't know, Home Chef's is a great company, right? We use it all the time.
Yeah.
Where you have the option. There's a lot of meal delivery companies where they give you all the ingredients and you can cook it and have fun. They do that, and it's awesome. It's pre-portioned. You chop it. You have fun with the family.
Yeah.
You think you're cooking. But if you don't even have time for that, they also offer oven-ready meals. You just take out and put in. You don't have to. It's already pre-chopped. It's already pre-portioned. You just turn the oven on. Even microwaved meals come with this company. So you have a way to tailor and customize. You want to go to Home Chef. You want to get great food. You want to get it delivered. You can say, you know what? This week we're going to cook as a family. This day we're too busy. We just want to pop something in the oven. It's all done, and it's
It is.
good.
It's
food.
delicious, and you can add your particular ethnic spices to it if you want.
Yeah, because you like to spice stuff up. You like to season. You're in there, dude.
I do. I like to.
You're gonna be like that Salt Bay guy. Where you're gonna be like, bam! Remember he did it off his arm? Do you ever
Yeah.
see that guy? That's what's coming. Anyway, tell the people where to go because this is a great company. It's great in a lot of ways. It's good for family fun. It's also good food. They have a kids menu too, so you can even do stuff just for children.
Yeah,
And tell them more. You might
which
get-
is great
And-
because she's the one that doesn't like anything.
I know.
So it's good. And for a limited time now, Home Chef is offering my listeners 18 free meals, so that ought to last you for a day, plus free dessert for life. Can you believe that? And of course, free shipping on your first box. Go to homechef.com/Roseanne. That's homechef.com/Roseanne for 18 free meals and free dessert for life. And you heard that right. homechef.com/Roseanne. You must be an active subscriber to receive the free dessert, you fat people.
And they have over 30 options a week. They have 18 options for kids alone. And here's the best part, because this is pre-portioned, it's already kind of mapped out for you. You don't have to go to the grocery store and guess and waste food. People save an average of $86 a month on grocery bills with this too.
fantastic.
So it's better
And it
food.
is really delicious.
It really is. So don't.
And it looks nice on the plate, too.
They wouldn't give us any of those numbers.
Wow.
And so I'm finding every way I can audit the ballots. So I actually used the ballot as a blueprint, and this is what makes it hard to audit. So it's one election, it's Maricopa County. How many different versions of the ballot do you think there were?
I know there were several.
Of the image?
So it's called a ballot face.
Right.
Some of them were longer, some of them were shorter.
No, well, everything's the same size,
Oh,
but
okay.
but you got all the districts and stuff to account for.
Okay.
Between English and Spanish, because they have to do both. And remember, your neighborhood here has a different fire department and a different schoolhouse. There were 10,500 different versions of the ballot.
Wow.
Oh, my God.
So I had to teach computers to read 10,500 different versions of the ballot, right? And so what they did is they're fighting with us on the paper, and they won't give it to us and everything else. So finally we get to the audit. We finally get these things. They say, Jovan, stand down. You're too controversial. We don't want them picketing us. So I agreed like a dumbass. Now, we're watching all this stuff on the floor, And it's a delayed time between all of the people doing the forensics I need and getting them to me. Now, my forensics to look at this is basically I can take a ballot and I can blow it up to the size of a billboard and not lose any quality. It's super high-end forensics. It's all set up in the cameras. You have photos of this. When I first start getting my images,
They're pixelated?
well, there's a 4-part image. It's called a quad. It's how I look at the oval. Is it human or machine? Because I can tell you right-handed. I can almost tell your age or male or female by how you do it. I'm looking at the quality of the paper. I'm looking at the color of printing, and I'm looking at the target calibration on the printer. When we first get them, not only did they, and I have a very sophisticated tracking system so I can go back to the batch, to the ballot, to the location. Because when I'm in court as a professional witness and I go, Your Honor, this ballot is counterfeit and here's why. Well, opposing counsel goes, that's full of shit, that's not counterfeit. And I said, okay, well, hold on. And then I'll go, this ballot's counterfeit. And they'll go, and I would go through that 100,000 times. It's the war of 1,000 paper cuts. There's no way they can defend against it, right? When I first get the ballot images, and I've got point persons on the floor that have been assigned by the state and other people and by the Senate, the actual size of the image was 640 by 480, which is VHS quality.
Wow.
And they had divided it by 4. So it's actually 1/4 of VHS quality with none of the tracking. I get these things and I go, what in the hell is going on? Every single image they took for my team,
Gone.
right, was compromised.
Jesus.
Was compromised. Because they didn't want me doing this work
Right.
at all. And I already knew I had problems because as I'm digging and they're doing work, I'm digging into the printer. So I go to look at the printer while I'm waiting for these images. Now, the printing company that prints for Arizona, Runbeck, as I started digging, I found out that in March of 2000, they ordered the
You mean 2020?
2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say 2000?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 2020. The Runbeck in early 2020 ordered the single largest order of ballot stuffing machines ever done. Now, here's why that's an anomaly. How did they know we were going to be in lockdown and everybody gets a mail-in ballot?
Yeah.
And we didn't have our first lockdown until July in baseball season.
That's right.
The states didn't announce it until probably August that we're in total lockdown. And you got to put in your ballot orders in September. How did they know to order the equipment in March and April?
No, they
Well,
planned
because
it.
somebody in Wuhan told them they was coming up with the.
Well, that's the see now
the
when you put all these
disease.
things together and you
Yeah.
realize they cut
Hello?
off the postal imaging and they're
Yeah.
ordering this advance. And
It's
so
beyond RICO. It's
Yes.
RICO times 1,000.
yes,
Global
so they
RICO.
know I'm on them, and they know
Yeah.
when it comes down to the paper, they're going to get their ass kicked. Every image is compromised. Every single image is compromised. I'm on the phone. We're starting to do our work and going, holy shit, this isn't the right thing. You got to redo them. Now, may I borrow your pen, dear? If we were looking at a quad, and you got a quad you can show, but if we were looking, it's called a quad. And so over here I'm looking at the oval, here I'm looking at the paper, here I'm looking at the siding, and here I'm looking at the writing. So here's the oval, here's the quality of paper, here's the target, the printing calibration, here's the writing. That's a quad. Now I train computers to look at this. So let me tell you how I trained to do it. So now I've got to be able to tell the paper and was it human. So the paper company reached out to me, the very company that supplies supposedly the vote secure paper, they reach out to me and they say, we'll work with you because we think there's a problem. And we want you to know
That's
we
cool.
had nothing to do with it. So they supplied me all of the real paper. Now, a few things happened for the first time in 2020. Maricopa came out and made a 1-year-long promotional campaign saying, we have improved our paper.
Yeah.
There will be no bleed throughs, and you can use a Sharpie.
Sharpiegate.
It's Sharpiegate. I'm the one that broke that, and they said I was lying. I'm going to tell you about Sharpiegate. Well, number one is we found out they used over 20 different kinds of paper, really. We knew that was coming because the people who provide the paper told us they didn't order all the paper.
Wow.
You're not going to find all the paper. So what I do as a forensic examiner is we went out and got every manufacturer of oversized paper, because it's oversized. And we got 20 different types of paper plus the real paper, or 19 types of paper plus the real paper. So what we're doing is we're looking at it forensically under microscopes. And then I took a group of people, we duplicated the ballot, and I look at the market numbers of what are the number one writing instruments sold in the grocery stores, office supply, and what's the number one writing instrument the government, Phoenix government orders. So we find them all. We take those 20 pens, and I have people from 8 to 80, right? And all they're doing is filling in every oval on the ballot. Now, what am I learning? I know if the person's right-handed, left-handed. We test. So we've got 20 different types of paper. They're all voting 150 ovals, and they got to go through that process for each of the 20 papers, each of the 20 writing instruments. And so I have millions and millions of images of what's real. I know this is the real paper, and I know here's what pen and pencils look like, right? So this is what we're searching for. I've already taught computers to look. We know this is real. We know this is fake. That's how you do it, right? So as we're testing this, then the next round of images come in. Now, you teach a computer, on the top left is the oval, top right is the paper, bottom left is the print, bottom right's it.
Don't tell me they switched the order.
They started switching the orders.
They're so smart.
They started switching the orders.
Wow.
Right there, popcorn right there. They started switching. Or your vampire fangs are showing. So the next batch comes in, they've switched the order.
Yeah.
Now we can't read them. Why? Because the computer's looking for an oval and it sees color.
Right.
And everything's broken. And so I called Doug and I said, look, we're getting sabotaged left and right. Major sabotage. So he gets rid of the team on the floor, right? And finally, months later, we're getting all the images. But it's really bad because the former Secretary of State of Arizona, who had done an audit at one time, he begged to be the spokesperson on the floor. He begged. So all of a sudden, he's the spokesperson on the floor. Now, no, if I was there, I would have caught all this shit. Now I know why they don't want me there. Not a single image would have been done wrong, right? I'd have caught it. Now, all of a sudden, we get all these leaks. Remember the leak about the red pen? Or the leak? He was letting them in the back door. They were placing those things in there.
Wow.
They were letting in leftist people posing as reporters to do a story to say all of this was bad and wrong. He was the one letting them in.
It's treason.
So we get him run out.
Jesus
now,
Christ.
Back in time.
It's an overthrow of the United States government.
So many people are in it. Ultimately, just to make a very long story short, one of the top people of the GOP, he became the spokesperson. He was trying to derail it behind the scenes.
What's his name, from Georgia?
No, this was in Maricopa.
Will you get on the mic better, or just
Right.
just pull it? You can pull it too if you want.
And so here's the deal: they tried every way they can to compromise it.
Yeah.
At every level, so we couldn't do our work. We caught every bit of it. It was monumental. But then when they knew they're not going to suppress me, that's when they just decided to ignore it. And none of the lawmakers were allowed to talk about what we found or anything else. Just so you know, here's the types of ballots. You have a color ballot. That's your original ballot you get mailed. Every ballot's in color. It's got color on it somewhere. Now, on election day or in walk-in, okay, you have a few things. So if you got a color ballot for your mail-in ballot, what do we know about it? It should have color on it, and it should have 3 very distinct folds on it that are mechanical folds that you can't take out, and those folds should never vary.
Right.
Because a machine did it.
Right.
Very simple. And it should be the right paper. Okay? Boom, boom, boom. That's how we measure mail-in ballots. Then you have what's called walk-in. Now, when you walk in, you're not voting the ballot they mailed you. So what they do is they print a ballot for you on demand right there. You vote it, and then you fold it. Now, why did I go through the fold drill? You're a one swiper. You're a pump, 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 swipe, swipe. Now, I can see all of that in forensics. I can see if you're left-handed, right-handed. And by the way, the folds are never perfect. See how I'm off?
Yeah.
So on the machine, they're perfect. On these, you're totally off.
Right.
So now what do I have? That ballot should be in black and white because they reprint it.
Right.
And the folds will be all over the place. So now I know I can measure it.
Right.
right? I got something to measure against. And then the last one is election day. And this is the last little, I'll give you 2 more examples on this and we'll move on. Election day is black and white because you're handed the day of the election and it's flat. You don't fold it, you just drop it in.
Right.
The only others that are flat are if it's a spoiled, my dog whizzed on my thing or whatever. Well, here's how it all worked and here's what they did. Number one, in all of the categories, how many people they said voted by mail? All bogus, off by double digits. How many people they said voted in person, early votes, off by double digits over.
You found this in the audit.
Every bit of it.
Right.
Election day, off by double digits over. So what they needed here, they made up here.
Uh-huh.
Then remember Sharpies. Now, for the first time in history, they said we use a special paper and you must use a Sharpie. They even came out with an excuse that says Sharpies stick to the drums of the scanners and cause repairs.
But they actually can't be read.
Well, no, it's a little different.
No?
Here's what happens.
It bleeds
Number
through,
one,
right?
there's not a single service ticket that exists in any state that Sharpies stuck to a drum.
Right.
A ballpoint pen can have Sharpies, no. So they forced Sharpies, and I even have an email, you have a picture of it. They said, you make sure everybody on election day uses a Sharpie.
Jesus.
And we know we never do that. Here's what the con was. Number one, when we get into the audit and we're looking at all these ballots, and I'm measuring everything that goes on, just measuring against it, we came up against an interesting thing that a lot of the ballot images were corrupted. We couldn't see them. We'll just call it 150,000 just to be even. And they just wouldn't open in the drives that the state provided to us, right? And they're what's called JSON images. And so I even get the inventors of that platform and format, they couldn't even unlock them. They go, this is really weird. Very high-tech stuff to make them not readable. Well, if you remember the battle, we said you didn't give all the images. You changed the drive. It took us months, and they finally says, oh, through lawsuits, you didn't ask what we archived. And so what they did is said, well, your piece of paper didn't say if we archived any of the images, and we archived these.
So they just delay.
So we finally get this one odd drive. Let me tell you about that odd drive. Number one, that odd drive was not in any form of the election management software. Complete file structure, completely changed, completely random. That one drive was every vote that was cast on election day. Okay? And then they came up with it later. Months later, they finally came up with it. Here's what you need to know, and you have an image of this. I can show you 1.8 million images of ballots. You have a header, and it does it like a timestamp and this machine and this, and you can read it. You read it a certain format. Every one of those, we'll call it 150,000 ballots on election day, all of the header information completely cut off. They zoomed it up and cut it off so we couldn't see when it was in the machines.
Wow.
Gets worse. Now, when you put a ballot in the machine, you've got your physical ballot. Here's how the evidence trails go. You feed it in, you get what's called a pre-image. That means it's a low-res copy, digital ballot front and back. Then in between, there's called adjudication. Now, adjudication is when you got to correct a ballot. In 2016, average adjudication would have been 2 ballots per batch of 200. Historically, that was about the average, 2 batches per 200. In 2018, we got to where it was about 4 per 200. That's 1 out of every 50 ballots had to be looked at by a human. You with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay. In Maricopa County, and this is all going to come into play, in Maricopa County, the actual numbers of ballots that had to be adjudicated, looked at, was 1 out of every 8.
Wow.
1 out of every 8. Now, I'm not
anomaly.
done there, because you got to see how they put all of this together. So, all of a sudden, here's what I should add. I should have a physical ballot. I should have a pre-ballot. Means the actual ballot went in. If they made changes, I should have changes. I should have a post-ballot.
Yeah.
And then I have it in an electronic file.
Yeah,
So
like a receipt.
Right. So an interesting thing about those 150,000 ballots we got later, besides not being in the format, we do have an election day ballot. We don't really know when it was created. We have 0 post images, not a one.
Oh my God.
But we do have an after image, which is exactly like they said it was voted. There's no post image to go, is this actually what went in the machine?
God.
Now, here's what I know. Out of all 150,000 ballots of election day, that's how they made up the numbers. Now, here's how we confirmed it. Let's go back to Sharpie Gate. They forced Sharpies on election day. So it's these 150,000 ballots. I'm rounding numbers up. You should have voted on that ballot an average of 45 different places. 90 if you were voting all the judges on the back, because there was a lot of judges. Those 100 plus thousand ballots had an extra, just them, 2.1 million votes on them.
What?
That was all the bleed through the Sharpies. So what the machine sees is a polka dotted fucking piece of paper.
Right.
It's just votes everywhere. So the machine goes, I don't know what's going on.
Says to be corrected.
So the machine says, I need a human to fix it. Okay?
Katie Hobbs comes in and fixes it.
Nope. This is where you're supposed to have humans look at it. Can I put something on the table?
Of course.
Yeah.
It's on
Okay.
my table.
So now you'll understand, besides me stomping on my coat.
It's so filthy and depressing and horrible.
Don't blow your back out.
You ready?
Uh-huh.
This would be a box of ballots. This right here would be a box of ballots.
Uh-huh.
Okay, you can see this here? Big old
Yeah.
box of ballots.
Yeah.
Now let's go back in history. I audited, my team, we audited 16 years backwards.
Okay.
Because we got to understand what's the trend. So in the past, let's just do a drill here.
Yeah.
When a ballot, we're all in the tabulation room and we're running ballots. When there was a ballot that had the baby puked on it, my dog chewed on it, I dripped my coffee on it, the machine would go, I can't read it. And so people would come to the end of the table and they would do a process called outstacking. Right? It's just at the end of the table. People will come around and grab these physical ballots and just go down to the other table, okay? And teams of them would look at them and correct them in real time and put them back in sequence.
Adjudication.
Adjudication. Now, remember, adjudication should be like 2 out of 200 or 4 out of 200.
Now it's 1 of 8.
In 2020, in all these states, here's what they have in common. They rammed through a new law called
Oh, they do that right away. Uh-huh.
AI digital adjudication.
Oh my God.
So here's what it did. Now remember, if you and I were doing this process in Maricopa, on an average election, we'd have about 12 of these boxes
To adjudicate.
Yeah.
to adjudicate over, 2.5 million people. Okay? 12 of these boxes worth of ballots, and there's 8 batches in a box. That's the average statistical size. But what they did in 2020 is when the ballot went in and it was unreadable, they didn't kick the ballot out. They just accepted it and suspended it. Now, you and I sitting on the line, we never saw them stacked up. What they did is took a photo of the ballot, which is very low quality. It's the resolution quality of a 1980 fax. And they sent it to another building across town where they had the adjudication. So it really wasn't supervised, but that wasn't the rig. Here's the rig. There were so many ballots adjudicated that where we would have normally had 12, 13, 14, 15 boxes, 3 pallets loads,
Jeez.
and there's 45 boxes per pallet.
Wow.
That's how many would have been outstacked. But see, they did it for a time hack because they already say, we're just got to adjudicate ballots. They time hacked 3 pallets, average 45 boxes per pallet. And you and I, if we couldn't see it because they made it all invisible. Because you and I would have been having a fucking fit, screaming,
Yeah.
"What the fuck's going on? Something's broken."
Right.
They would have retired if it was done the old way. They would have stopped every machine in process.
Right. Something
And so what they did
seriously
is
wrong.
a digital hack. Now, does that mean they changed the votes? No, because the machines can still statistically tell what you voted. But if you have 1 out of every vote suspended, The only way it comes back down is when a human says, okay, what do you have? Here's what you have. You know, every mail-in ballot that came in, you suspend 1 out of every 8 ballots. You have all these 10 days you really didn't need. You can see them up here.
When you need them, you pull them.
No, that's not it.
Oh, shit.
They're going to let them count.
Okay.
They can see them. They know what the numbers are. They're backfilling,
Oh, yeah.
right? They're creating the numbers Joe Biden need.
That's what I was
Through
saying.
bad voters and stuff. They're
Right.
creating them under here and sticking in
Mhm.
ballots.
They
That's
needed
what I was-
to know how many they needed.
Right. And then they let it come back
Yeah,
down
yeah,
and they
yeah.
said it was a foot race. Now, here's the deal.
Motherfuckers.
They said that Joe Biden, that it was 2,089,517, roughly, the votes. They said they needed 10 extra days to count the ballots. I've given you this chart. We tracked every ballot as it came through the system. Number one, when the county Board of Registrars confirmed the election on November 20th, which is when they have to confirm, and they confirmed
Yeah.
2,089,517, Joe Biden won. They still had 240,000 ballots they hadn't scanned in.
Oh, Jesus.
So how'd they get that number? When Ducey, the governor of Arizona, he's relying on numbers with Katie Hobbs. That's when you heard President Trump, that special ring calling him. President Trump saying, these numbers aren't real. Ducey ignored the call. He and Katie Hobbs certified the election.
Yeah.
They still didn't have the number.
Wow.
And then when you look at the telemetry, all of the ballots I told you about Election Day, they ran those through December 8th and 9th, over 1 month after the
they
election.
certified.
And
Does it show Biden still winning when you do that? Or we don't know?
no, they still didn't have the numbers. It was all picked right out of their ass. They had to make
They
it up.
certified it without the numbers.
They certified it without the, which means it was a managed outcome. That's, remember, go back to the 52 boxes. They had already predetermined what it would take, and damn, they were going to get it. And because when you're moving that many pieces, you never have it.
Right.
And they still missed it by 1,900 some odd votes, which shows something's wrong. The GOP, the Dems, Arizona, because it's cartel, because it's mafia, would never let you see any of this, and it's all in the paper, and that's why they've hidden it to this day, and I haven't even told you but 1/20th of everything that happened.
And that's who Kerry Lake ran against, was Katie Hobbs, with Sharpie K, right? And
Say it
Katie
again?
Katie Hobbs was the one that ran against Kerry Lake.
And they did it against with Kerry Lake.
And they did it for the midterms, I think, in Georgia again.
Yes, they did. They did in every single state.
And they're going to do it in 2024.
Georgia's where they steal all the black vote.
Yes, they do.
Well,
In
also
Georgia,
it's
we had,
Pennsylvania.
I was going to do the ballots, and the ballots were set aside. We were about 3 weeks away from me doing a forensic audit. And we had the ballots set aside. One of these things is you got to understand you're prosecuting a war.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't, loose lips sink ships. Well, one of the people in Georgia inappropriately got a hold of digital materials from the legal team that should have never been shared. I was the only person authorized to have them. And I'm showing the court, look, these machine images are the quality of a 1980 fax machine. Well, one of the people, because everybody tried to become social heroes, released that they were overscanning the ballots. I already knew I could catch that. I was playing a game with them. Here's why. We knew they probably weren't going to give us the digital images. I could always look at the digital image and tell things, not everything, but I could tell things. So I always let the system believe the digital images were trash. I can't use them. I can't use them. They're too low. Knowing I could find stuff. Give me the paper. Well, I'm playing a bet that they're going to hide both. So they go, oh, here's the digital image. You understand what I was doing?
Yeah.
So we got the digital image. One of those people let the cat out of the bag about the overscans, and we were all ready to go, everything set up, even getting the equipment and volunteers and everything. And it so freaked the system that the judge backed out, and that's when he kicked the case. And that was because a Republican let that loose that should have never been shared. Loose lips hurt us on every one. And to
Well,
this day, we're going to see if they even still have the ballots. I don't think they still have the ballots.
Okay, let's cut to the chase now.
Yeah, how do we stop this from happening
You just
again?
laid out the whole forensic case there as if we're in, I can't remember, like a regular
Move it a little
ID
closer.
channel crime
Yeah, forensic
case,
files.
which I love.
I love forensic files. I go to sleep with forensic files when I can't sleep.
Oh my God, that's what I do. Oh yeah.
High five. Move it a little closer, please.
But let's cut to the chase and get to the,
Yeah.
okay, in wrapping this up.
Yeah, you sound good.
And I've given you
don't
sample of all
have
of it.
to answer me because it might be incendiary. Who the fuck's fault is all this?
Yeah, who stopped the count?
Okay.
Who's
I'll name names.
Okay,
I'll
good.
name names. I have
Who's
no problem.
behind
Look,
all of this shit?
the one thing for me is I'll name names. Just like when you saw me
I will
testify
too.
in Georgia, I called it out. I said, "Look, this is unforgivable." But anyway, here's the deal. Not quite 40 years ago, there was a lawsuit where the Democrats sued the GOP for election fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And the GOP did what's called a dissent decree, which basically means, okay, I give up, we do an order. That order stayed on the books for almost 40 years, and that order was the Republican Party will never sue over election fraud.
Oh, that's a great thing to know.
I have all the paperwork.
Wow.
The Republican Party signed a document saying we will not sue over election fraud.
Because they got
And
caught.
if they violated it, they would get mega fines. So for 40 years, the GOP forbid anybody from talking about election fraud or merely mentioning the name. And if you did, you were freaking blackballed. Now, that only expired just before the 2020 election. So if you take it in generations, and we'll call a lawmaker a generation of 10, although there's some, 5 years, it was 4 generations of people that were taught, don't you question elections, it's real. So we have that collective turning away, and it's the same rat bastards that stay in office.
Oh yeah, for forever.
Right? They signed it. They knew what they were doing. So that
Because they were taking payoffs.
Yep. That train, in my book, they were training Republicans never to push back.
Uh-huh.
That's number one. Number two, plandemic was plandemic. Here's what happened. It's just like I told President Trump when he asked me, how did I win in 2016? And I said, because the people knew you were true and real. And I can tell you with President Trump, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I mean, sit with him even talking about, he didn't know, how do I get reelected? He never asked that question. How do we fix this? What can I do now? What can I do when I'm in? How would you do this? The problem is around the people around President
No,
Trump.
I know that.
Yeah.
At the very last part of 2020, after we knew the parts of the election, I knew it was going to be a battle for the paper. And so there's 2 laws on the books that basically say the paper has to be kept for 24 months. And I'm teaching lawmakers this. The law is on the books. They didn't even know it. And I'm asking to get him to codify by executive order that means the paper can be looked at and it's part of it. Well, the attorneys inside the White House at the time were telling him, you can't do that because people can tell who voted and how they voted, which is total bullshit. So I didn't get that done. They kept him away from it. Then if we look at the compounding effect, what they did is here's how the racket works. And I'll give you real-time examples. In Maricopa for 2020, I'm pushing the county to give me what's called the 5 dones. That means you mailed ballots. Now, if you get a mail-in ballot, it basically means the government expects you to vote and you're approved to vote. That's called a mail packet. So I wanted to know, okay, if you mailed 2.5 million, 2.8 million, whatever ballots you mailed, I want to know how many came back. And they come back for no such address, no such person, unknown, wrong address, deceased. Those are called the 5 dones. Now, that's called a mail packet. It's not your ballot. It's the outside envelope that goes through the mail service. Inside is the security envelope and the ballot. Maricopa, the Republicans, the Democrats would not turn over that number. And by the way, all the election people are Republicans. They would not tell us those numbers. They just refused to give it to us.
I wonder why.
About 14 months into it, we finally get the number. And they said it was, and I'm just rounding, it was about 56,000. Now remember, you can check certain things with the Election Commission, and the Election Commission, through the post office, could get the returns, and there were 110,000 envelopes that couldn't be delivered that came back. Now, by law, they have to be unopened and accounted for 24 months. The county said, we gave them to the printer, and then they said, well, the printer didn't know they had to keep them, and the printer destroyed them. Now, what is that called? That's called a ballot cracking operation, which means you got the ballot packet, you open it up, you pull out an envelope, you pull out a ballot. But see, now you know it by precinct. There's 749 precincts. So you got them all lined up by precinct. So imagine you're in Vegas and you're looking at the Keno board. right? You got 110,000 extra ballots called fungibility. As they're watching the numbers, they need a real ballot to come in. So as soon as that number, quote unquote, lights up on the board, somebody just fills out the ballot the way they need it, puts it in the envelope. That's what ballot mules were dropping off in ballot drop boxes.
Okay, that's
Right?
brilliant.
That's how they do it.
They're really, you'd think that instead of figuring out how to cheat, they'd figure out how to have a better platform to help people,
Yeah.
and then they'd win.
No,
It's too easy.
they can't do that because they can't win otherwise because it's about money. But here's the deal. The GOP would not let people understand what it was. The Democrats said, well, it's okay to ballot harvest. Well, that's not ballot harvesting.
Yeah.
That's ballot cracking. It's something completely different. And then you're trafficking a legal ballot voted illegally.
Well, that's what Hamas does.
Yes, exactly. It's all trafficking.
It's all the Democrats in Gaza.
Well,
Right.
GOP does
No
it here
shit,
too
right?
because they also cheat. clearly.
GOP does it the same way. Look, there's people in
What are we going to do?
Yeah,
How do we
let's get to
demand
that.
Well,
paper
here's
ballots?
what we have to fight.
We have to get paper ballots,
has a
right?
plan.
Well, it's
Or
yes.
the military has to.
No.
What?
No. Here's how we fix this.
We just
Nope.
don't vote.
Poll
Nobody
watchers?
votes?
No.
Because
That's, you
there's
better
one
vote
thing
more.
No, but in the Constitution
I'm gonna
it
vote
says if
30
the vote
times.
goes below 30%, it's an invalid election.
Won't happen because they'll have enough people. They have enough people on the Democrat side. They'll vote it and go over it. It'll never happen.
Yeah.
First off,
Well, my fantasy is what if they threw an election and nobody came?
it should be the opposite.
What?
Let me tell you why.
What?
If we got,
Yeah, what do
if
we
We
do?
don't
if we,
vote our ass off 2 or 3 times.
If
Yeah,
we-
my
if
dead
we-
grandma's
do in
voted
Georgia?
for Trump
if
5
we
times.
rigged an election
Yeah.
and we convinced people you would get no justice, and people said, "Fuck it, I'm not voting again," you don't need to rig another election. So we have to get more active than ever. So I'm going to tell you how we deal with this.
Okay.
Number one, we should have had full forensic audits in 5 states. We had 5 states do agreement, but the cabal went to work and told them full forensic audits are a waste. Don't do it. It's a scam. It's grifters. And they got all the other states
They
to
called
stand
them
down.
all racist. you
That's
mean?
right.
Yeah.
So
You
they
know,
got them all to
call-
stand down.
The Nazis called them racist.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
So they got them to stand down.
Yeah.
What we know right now statistically is we probably have 20 million bad voters on our voting rolls.
Oh, at least.
Now, here's how we know it. I can take you in any major city. I can go to the Building Planning Commission. We can look at a neighborhood or a high-rise. Let's take a high-rise. And here's the plan for a high-rise. They haven't even broken ground. But the one thing they've done is assigned it an address. And then you got apartment addresses. You know what appears instantly? Voters.
That's right.
There's no building there or whatever.
Yeah.
So now let's say it takes 5 years for that building to be built. As soon as it's built and people occupy it, they move those people to another address. That's number one. So we have massive fungibility in our voter rolls. Now, what I have been trying to do and trying to tell the GOP, as I show them every 20 ways to do it, the top person says, I don't understand this. Could you get it down to one paragraph so
No,
I
you
can
can't.
understand it?
No.
And I'm going, you got to fucking kid me? I'm going to show you how all this con works, and you need one paragraph so you understand it? Well, I don't really do email and stuff.
Handlers.
Yes.
Handlers.
So
It is a lot of information to be
it
fair.
is a lot of information. But look, we either do it right or don't fucking do it. Don't you agree? We're fighting for our country.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
we're fighting for our children's
You
lives.
better believe it. We're over. For us, it's over. We're
Yeah,
fighting for
we're
the new
gonna
babies
die
and
our
stuff.
way out of it.
Right?
But these kids, what are they going to do to them?
That's right. So now, I'm pushing all these last few years to clean the voter rolls. You got all these people that popped up as experts that the system puts in at all the speakings, like
Yeah.
Turning Point.
Handlers.
Here's what these people said. First off, you got people saying, it's the machines. We're going to melt them to
Yeah,
prison
they're
bars.
full of
It's
shit.
machines, the machines. That's all full of shit.
Full of shit.
But you got the same people going around saying this on stage. Don't focus on the voter rolls, because as soon as we clean them, they'll just put more on. That's like saying, quit enforcing the border because more are going to come through. I'm going, clean the freaking voter rolls, and at least we got 20 million rounds of ammunition out of the fucking game.
Yeah, really.
Okay. So we got bad voter rolls. But here's the next thing, and I exposed this to GOP not dealing with it. Right now, with the illegals coming across the border,
Oh, they're going to give them mass amnesty
nope,
to vote.
it's worse. No.
Oh, no.
They're
What
gonna
are they going
print
to
a
do?
ballot
Have
and
them
take it.
rape us and then get mass amnesty?
That would only be a bonus, wouldn't it? No.
What?
Okay, so the illegals come across the border. The paperwork that they force ICE to fill out is to ask one question.
Who are you voting for?
No.
No.
Why did you come to America? And I gave you pictures of this. Why did you come to America? And all the people say, I came to get a job. And then they say, okay, if you're going to work in America, sign this piece of paper that says you promise to pay tax if you get a job. You know what our government does? Gives them a social security number.
Oh, yeah.
Hang on.
And a driver's license.
Then they say you got to go get a driver's license. When the people go into the driver's license bureau,
They get registered to vote? No?
they get a driver's license. They go, I need an ID. They hand them a social security card. The person automatically thinks and does not check if they're a real citizen. The government doesn't release the list of the people's names. They have merged motor voter. And what happens is that illegal literally gets a driver's license, automatically gets dropped into the voter file. And when the license shows up a week later, here comes the voter registration card.
Oh, yeah, I knew they were
In
doing
Arizona, they have what's called a federal platinum ballot. Again, I exposed this. Nobody knew about it. Put it out there. It says if you can't prove your citizenship, then we don't want you to really hurt local politics. So you can't vote for the mayor, you can't vote for city council, any of that. But
Only
you-
president.
Only president and senator. And it's
Jesus.
called the federal ballot. And supposedly Trump lost by 10,500. There's over 20 some odd thousand of those. And I can show you that. I can show you illegals that we can pin are only from New Mexico. They're already getting ballots. So here's what they've done. They conned the system to think it's the machine. They threw every lawsuit sideways. They got people to go around and tell you full forensic audits were a waste, which is the only thing that finds it. They told you don't mess with the voter rolls because they'll put more on. And not only did that not get cleaned, they probably put on 8 million illegals. Now, are the illegals going to vote?
No. They don't
No,
have to.
they don't have to. But here's the racket. When the illegals come through, they need an address for their promise
For
to
their
court.
fake ballot.
They need an
What?
address
Yeah,
address for
baby.
promise for court. It's all these
Oh,
charities and
yeah.
NGOs.
NGOs.
They have 10,000 people at one address, which is a crime.
Yeah.
All of that stuff goes there. Same with the ballots. They just corral the ballots. And the newest law the Democrats did, ready?
What?
No.
If an illegal didn't know they could vote and they assumed they could vote and they do, they can't be held criminally liable because they assumed. Now, what did I just tell you? They're going to get a voter registration
Yeah, they
in the
are.
mail. Are they going to assume they can vote?
Yeah.
Yes.
They just have to say, I thought I could vote. Boom, scot-free.
Wow.
So here's what this is going to come down to.
I quit.
Here's what we need to do. Number one, white
give up.
women are going to make us or break us.
They're going to break
Yeah,
us.
they're gonna
They're
break
You're either
idiots.
going to be liberal and you're going to sacrifice it because you think
children.
killing of a baby is far more important than this, and your
Yeah.
hate for Trump, and you've been
They will.
brainwashed,
They are
which I
gonna.
think is what I call
Well,
abortion.
they've all been raped by their dads.
It's abortion guilt is what it is. They're absolving you, right?
Right.
For it, but
It's because they've been sexually abused by their family, and they want to save babies by killing them.
yes. So we got white guilt coming in.
Yeah, that's not going to help.
We got voter rolls that have all kinds of crap people on them.
GOP's
got-
involved.
GOP's
Pedophiles.
involved. We've got all these illegals on.
Yeah.
And when they say every vote must count, they're going to let them come in.
Right.
And if they all come in, they're not going to let us look anything, just like Michigan has
Yeah.
already outlawed it to do an audit. It's against the law
Yeah.
to do an
I
audit.
saw.
Yeah.
And everything worked against us. The people
How's
that
that
came
legal?
out screaming, get the cast vote records, get the cast vote records. And they didn't train people what they were. First off, they didn't know there's 6 versions, and they only give you the good version that's bad. But half of those counties wrote laws to outlaw that. Then you've got the ERIC system that's supposedly managing all of these things. I think there's 2 voter rolls. I think
I think there is too.
there is a voter roll they print from that they know is bad, but when you're doing an audit and they have to surrender the voter roll, they give us the cleaned up one.
Yeah.
But if you look at the ERIC file, I can show you millions and millions of files over years where cities didn't even remove one dead person. It's
Right.
all a racket. So they've built this fungibility in, and the prime culprit I blame is not the left, and here's why. The left tells you, we're going to fuck you, we're going to fuck your kids, we're going to take over your country, and you
Yeah.
should be a communist.
Yeah.
You know what? At least they honor their word.
Right.
The right tells you, oh, we got this. We're going to take care of it. Don't worry. We're going to fight for you, and doesn't do shit. And that's the real enemy.
Yeah.
I
and
think
that's what
so.
we're
That's
fighting.
Era of Rob, the enemy
Yes,
within.
it is.
So
And
how
that's
the
it.
fuck
I
are
think
So
we're
here's
gonna
how we
lose.
fix it.
We're going to lose.
What are we going to
Okay?
do?
You're
3
bumming me
things.
out. You're
3
bumming me
things.
out.
Poll watching
Grandmothers.
means nothing
Okay.
because you're not taught to watch.
Right.
I can show you a computer the size of a USB fob. I can give you a whole computer on a USB fob. When you go in and vote, here's the racket. They give you a ballot. you do it, and then you go over to a scanner and they scan it for you and they say, thank you for voting. That is not your vote, because all it did was go to a storage card. They then transfer that later to a tally center. That card never gets checked. You don't know if there's a resident program on it or not. In 2020, most of those cards had robberies and went missing.
I
Nobody
remember
changed
this.
the card.
But
Yeah.
what about paper ballots?
I'm going to give you that.
Okay.
Okay, but
I'm going to give you. I'm just telling you all the ways it is. So
Okay.
we've got to change poll watching to be meaningful. Now let's go paper ballots. We have to go to paper ballots.
We do.
Absolutely.
We have no hope if we don't.
Well, there's still multiple parts to it.
Okay.
We not only have to go to paper ballot, we have to have a singular paper standard,
Yeah.
right, one paper, one pen.
right? And that it has to be a very certain type of paper, right? It's not fucking holograms, because the machines don't recognize them and you don't get to look at them. We got to have one paper standard. Now, it should be one-day voting,
Yeah.
should be a national holiday,
Yeah.
should be paper ballot,
Yeah.
and it should be hand counting. But here's the catch.
There should be a national holiday where people get paid that
It
day.
should. But here's the catch.
Yeah.
There's people out there that have been promoting hand counting of the ballots one day, one voting, and that's great. But out of 3,800 counties, they got 200 to agree, and it's tiny counties that's not going to make a difference. But you remember, is that a ballot by a good voter or an illegal?
You don't know.
I'm going to give you the paper ballot. You count it. Is that by a good voter or an illegal?
No way to know.
See, you're only as good as the list, and you're only as good as the data. You can't tell by the paper if the voter is true. So you can count paper all day long
Right.
and not know if that voter's good or not. And
Well,
that's why,
I mean, you have to have voter ID too.
well,
proper-
we have to have voter ID,
Yeah.
yes. But I'm talking about right now in 2024, the
Yeah.
efforts to count the paper. They
Well,
don't
that
know.
won't matter if
Right.
you can't prove you're a
They don't,
citizen.
that's right. They don't know if it's an
You
illegal
have
or
to have
not.
proof of citizenship
Yes, you
and
do.
paper ballots.
But we don't have that.
Right.
Now, how come we haven't done that?
Well,
they could cheat.
They've skirted the laws around it, and we were asleep. So right now for 2024, none of those laws are in effect, and they are talking about we're going to hand count some of the ballots, but you can't tell the difference between a
Yeah.
real one or another one.
Counting a
The next
fraudulent
part of
ballot-
it is,
ballot doesn't
here's
count.
what I would.
I don't think communists should be allowed to vote in this
I don't think they
in
should
this
either.
country
I don't think they should.
because
they do.
they are not loyal to our constitutional republic.
Correct.
I don't think Nazis or communists should be voting.
Correct. Here's the remedies that we
Yeah.
think can
Give
work.
us positive. What do we do?
Okay. Number one, and I told President Trump this because he said, what would you do? I said, I would instantly eliminate the voter rolls and parties.
Oh yeah,
We have to
I
douche
see
it all,
I see it.
right?
I see it. Yeah.
So
uh-huh.
get rid of every one of them, and then you bring your ID
Yep.
and you can register to vote.
Yeah.
And I
no
said,
party.
How do you
I
do
said-
that?
huh?
Oh, that's so
How
smart.
do you do that?
Well, here's how it would work. So if we have National Election Day, and if, let's say, President Trump does get in by a miracle, this is the one of the things we can fix this broken system. We have to eliminate the voting rules. They're broken. They're crap. We
They're
have
bullshit.
outside companies that can write into them that are not the government.
That's
So
ridiculous.
all we do, in fairness to everybody, get rid of it all.
Yeah.
The second thing we do is we get rid of party affiliation. Here's
Yeah.
why. If we sat back and we looked at and you have pictures of this, and we looked at your ballot that gets mailed to you, I can tell you from your ballot if you're an independent, a Democrat, or a Republican.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you
They
know
what
how?
to throw out. No, I don't
How?
know how, but
Okay, so you have a photo of this. And again, this is how deep the rig goes. We have what's called election mail in the United States. And what they do and it's why we find bags of ballots of Republicans, but not voters, right? Because the Republican has a red indicia, the Democrat has a blue indicia,
Yeah.
the no party independent has a gray indicia.
They
And
just
the
throw 'em
most
out.
people can know, and they know which ones to throw
yeah,
away
Yeah.
I remember
in
this.
advance. All of that has to go away. So if we go to one day voting, and all you have to do is show up, show true ID, and we validate your citizenship, and you're of age, you can vote. Now, what the Dems are doing is the following. They're saying we need to get young people used to voting. And so we want to be able to register them at 16, even though they can only vote at 18. But here's
Oh, Jesus.
here's what you don't see on the
I
backside.
mean, they're so stupid as fuck when they're 16.
You're right. Well, here's the backside. The
Even
backside
Kamala
laws.
says that.
The backside laws that they wrote was an election worker. It's a crime with up to a $10,000 fine if you're an election worker and you ask somebody their age.
Oh, God, they're such cheaters.
Also, if you ask somebody if they're a citizen, they made it a crime for election workers to ask that. So if we get rid of all of that and make it one day with ID, prove your citizenship, we will be golden.
Well, of course.
Now, the reason we
but
should...
are we going to do that?
No.
Nobody's even working on that.
Nobody's working on it.
No.
And Trump may work on it when he gets in.
But he's not gonna get in.
But we get him in. Now, here's
They're
what...
not going to let Trump in.
No.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fight. Let's see.
Like I
But
say,
here's what tells
we're
us
not going to vote our way out of
we
this
have one
Nazi tyranny.
we have one sign that he's going to do it. You know what that sign is?
What?
God.
Watch me. Ready?
Uh-huh.
Here's the sign. Do you know what that was?
No.
Us.
No, that was the single moment that kill shot what is his temple and he turned
Yeah.
this way
Yeah.
and it went through his ear. That is a sign from God. He's not going to let this happen because only by the grace of God was Donald Trump still here. And it was the most perfectly timed turn of the
Yeah.
head.
Well, God's smarter than the devil.
You better believe it. You better
Yeah,
believe it.
that's what
So
I'm
that's
doing.
the one thing that tells me we're going to get through this, but they're going to be a fight. And I do believe they're still going to try to kill him even more.
I think
But
they
let's
will
set that
too.
aside.
What can we do?
Here's what we can do.
Yeah.
Number one, and we recommended this on my program 3 years ago, getting ready for the midterms, and we call it the Fuller FU.
Oh, I love
Because one of the guys I work with, his name's Roger Fuller, and he came up with this, and we call it the Fuller FU. And here's how it works. Request your mail-in ballot.
it. I've heard this before.
Right now.
Yes. Request it now.
And what you do is when it comes to you, and you folks, you got to follow these instructions. Do not open it. Don't you dare open it.
just
And you
keep
keep every version that comes to you. Now, what you do is you go in on election day to vote. These numbers went through the roof in 2020 and in 2022. You get there, you have a high statistical chance, happened in California, that they say, I'm sorry, but we show you've already voted.
Yeah.
Now, you know you haven't. Follow the rules. Number one, don't bitch. Don't say anything. Don't start saying fraud. Go, can you repeat that to me? The worker, who's more than likely a good person, is going to say, I'm sorry, Ms. Barr, you can't, we show you already voted. And they'll say, I'll give you a provisional, which means we're going to let you vote, but we're going to investigate it. Now, what they don't tell you is they're going to count the mail-in ballot. They're not going to count the provisional because they have no way of telling if that was really you, okay? Now, you're going to be handed a provisional. When you're handed that provisional ballot, because they've already told you, I'm sorry, we show you've already voted, ask for the supervisor to come over and just do one more check. They'll bring the supervisor over and say, can you just double check this for me? I didn't vote my mail-in ballot. Supervisor's going to tell you the same thing. They're only as good as the data they have. They're going to tell you, yes, you voted. So I can vote provisional. Step aside with the provisional. Call your sheriff's department, not
It
the
is
police.
all about the sheriffs.
No, you're right.
Totally
Do
about
not
the
call the
sheriffs.
police.
Okay.
Okay, now follow these exact steps.
Call your sheriffs.
You call your sheriff on the non-emergency line. Don't you dare use 911, ask for the
Yeah.
service, or you have your sheriff pre-ready on your phone. And when the sheriff line comes on, non-emergency line, or they'll ask you if it's emergency, you say no, said, I need to report identity theft, but it's unique. I'm standing here at a retail place. I watched it happen, and I'm still here. I need to have a deputy show up. Now, they'll send you a deputy. You notice I didn't say polling place. I said I'm at a retail location because that's actually what it is.
Okay.
And somebody has stolen my identity.
Yes, it has.
Don't
too.
talk ballots. Don't talk voting. Now, the sheriff's going to show up. Now, of course, they're going to see it's a polling place. What's going to happen is you tell the sheriff's going to find you. You meet them. You tell them the story. You can even tell the people, I'm going to give you my provisional ballot. I'll be right back. You're going to tell the sheriff the story. The sheriff's going to go to the two people you talked to and going to get the exact same story. Sorry you ever voted. And at that time, and only at that time, reach into your pocketbook or your purse or your jacket and pull out your mail-out ballot. And you say, this is my mail-in ballot.
Sealed.
You can see it's not open. I have not voted my mail-in ballot. Somebody has stolen my identity. And you get a report right then and there on the books. do not surrender that ballot. You have no requirement by law to surrender it because it becomes your property when they mail it to you. And you can clearly say, this is my evidence. They've stolen my ID. I'm keeping it, right? File the report. Now, what you've done is you've empowered a sheriff who actually has the ability to investigate and seize ballot boxes and seize things. And you put the responsibility to work, but it's identity theft. Stay away from voting. Stay away from fraud. And you will force the right type of investigation.
But this is only if they say you've already previously voted,
Yes.
right? Okay.
But that's
How
what
often
they
is it?
did.
Yes.
They did
Okay.
Yes,
hundreds
so
of thousands of
that's
times.
number one. They do that quite a bit, and I can tell you, when these votes come down to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5,000 people, they only need to do it to a double handful per precinct. Okay.
Right.
Now here's the next thing.
Well, any fraud, what's the word? Vitiates.
Yes,
Jake? What's
eliminates. Yeah, but we got to do it right, and that's what we didn't do. When people got these load of mail-in ballots, which is continually happening, and by the way, you see the common errors happen. Oh, we printed them wrong. We got to send a new batch.
More to stuff.
It's just more in the market. That's all they're doing. They're just reprinting more. They say it was a boo-boo. They can't pull them back. It's just to get them out there.
Okay.
So you want to vote on election day. The next thing you need to do is as the ballots start arriving at your home, stop opening them and stop throwing the son of a bitches away, especially when you get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Stop throwing them away. That is physical evidence somebody is using your address. Next, what you need to do as a vote...
And the next thing they do is they do steal your identity and your credit cards, and that comes next.
What you need to do, and this is where we're going to come down to women too. Number one, you need to go down to your voter registration office and say, this is my address. I want to verify who is registered to vote at my address.
Oh, that's smart.
Some places will give you the information. Some places will say you're not entitled to it. Record it. The places that tell you can't see it, record it because
Record it with your phone?
Your phone, whatever it is.
Them saying it.
Yes, them saying we can't show you that.
Okay.
You show them that this is your home. You are the homeowner. This is your home. I want to know who's registered to vote at my home.
You know, they could steal your home from you with
They
this
sure
shit
can.
too.
So start looking right now. Everybody, it doesn't matter what your address is, go down and ask at my address, and that means your apartment number, not your apartment complex. Who is registered to vote at my address? Start collecting that.
Okay.
Now, the next thing you have to do after you find out who's there or whatever is you want to ask them, you can get a copy of your voter record. So let's say you've been in a town for 20 years and you've voted religiously for 20 years. Part of the way they do this operation is they will truncate your name. Instead of John James Smith, they'll do John Smith, John J. Smith, or J.J. Smith. They'll give you a brand new voter ID. They'll take half of your voting record and crack it, and they'll move it down to a separate file, alternating. Well, you need to see, well, I voted here, and it's not there. So you want to go know your standard. Have they already started cracking your file? Next. If you're a woman or man, for whatever reason, that have changed your name, you got married. Mm-hmm. Statistically, if you're a woman, you got married and you changed your name and moved away, you are still voting in your old county.
Oh, wow.
You are still there.
I didn't know that.
And they're not cleaning them up. In Maricopa, you have the coroner's office right by the county recorder. They know for tax records immediately the person's dead, but the county recorder says, well, the family has to give us a death certificate to take you off the voter rolls.
Wow.
Next, if you've had anybody in your life die within the last 16 to 20 years, you need to look them up and make sure they're not on the voter rolls. Chances are, statistically, they're still there and they're still voting.
Wow.
Okay?
What a crooked fucking country.
Yes, it is. Here's the next thing. The next thing we need to do. The GOP picks who the champions are, and so that's who they run around to do speaking engagements or speaking this stuff.
Yeah.
And there are no solutions. It's horseshit.
Yeah,
but it's because they're big donors and they just want people that play along.
The donors give to both parties.
Yes, it's horseshit.
Yeah.
Nobody represents us except us, so represent yourself.
That's true.
What I believe should happen right now, other than voting on election day, getting your ballot and all this stuff, keeping your eyes open, don't threaten, don't use this. Number one, you got to put together voting parties right now.
Yeah.
You got to get as many people as you can, and you're all going to go together.
That's legal.
Okay?
Illegal?
So let's say it's 50 people.
Okay.
Get it together. There is no reason that liberals can't vote with you because we're all paying shitloads more for power and gas and rent and groceries. We all have a common interest in this. This is no longer about parties. It's about
That's
being
right.
American.
That's right.
Get as many people as you can from your precinct and area and organize voting parties. And you all go to the polls together.
What
and
did
you
I
stand,
say about community, Jake?
you
It's
stand
community.
sequentially in line, meaning
This
you
is
line up and you're there.
All legal and everything?
Everything. It's
Okay.
100% legal.
Okay.
Every one of you is a witness to recurring incidences like,
Right.
hey, my ballot was bad, or they wouldn't let me vote, or they gave me a Sharpie. They cannot tell you to vote with a Sharpie. They cannot determine what instrument you vote with. Take a blue ballpoint pen with you.
Okay.
Even if they tell you you can't vote, that's against law. If they tell you you have to use that's against the law. That's crime. But you got to have witnesses to back it up. You've got to line these people up just
Yeah.
like you're lining witnesses. You all see the same thing, experience the same thing, and
Right.
document it right then and
Yeah,
there.
bring witnesses.
Right. Now, what you do is you don't go to some damn website that the GOP has. Hey, we got a new app. Report it. Well, see, people think they're doing good. Oh, I reported it on an app. By law, that's considered spam, and the court does not have to consider it because it's not a legal jurat. What is a legal jurat? A legal jurat means you wrote out, my name is Martha Smith, here it is, here's what happened,
Gotcha.
here's how I was offended, I swear this is true, and you go get it notarized. Why? A notary, when they notarize it, what that is the equivalent of appearing in court. You don't
That's
have to
right.
be asked to appear in court.
That's right.
It's by law, you have appeared in court because that person is an agent of the court. So you have now technically, when you sign that jurat, it's identical to appearing in court.
Okay.
You have to get a signed jurat. Now, everybody will do that particular same signed thing in doing it. That you all gotta get on the right page, but don't go to the GOP website or whatever. The courts have already ruled that's spam and they don't use it. And by the way, as I tried to get affidavits to match to what I was investigating, all of the affidavits that the GOP collected for lawsuits disappeared.
Oh, they're
single one.
just as crooked as hell.
Every single one
I'll
of them
tell you, when I
disappeared.
ran for president, this broke my heart because I had everybody tell me they was going to write my name in. So I was like, man, I heard from a lot of people, right? So when we went to election day and everything, I ended up I was only on 3 ballots, which that took the strength of so many people to
Right.
even get me on a ballot, you know?
Right.
But I got a good number of votes in those 3. But then they told us, oh, we don't count write-ins unless it's a tie. That's what they told us in 2012. We don't even count the write-in ballots unless it's a tie.
There's all kinds of stupid rules, but I'm going to show you how to use it right. You have people right now that are supposed experts, and here's what they're telling you. There's so much misinformation. They're saying, vote your oval, so like you mark your oval, and
Yeah.
and draw a line to your candidate so we can see that it's it. That immediately adjudicates your ballot.
Motherfuckers.
That means you've suspended it. They are teaching you to do that.
Wow.
Next, these county recorders say, you make a mistake, just scribble on it.
Nope.
Yeah, uh-huh.
That suspends
then
your
they
ballot.
won't read it.
Here's the other way they're doing it, because they know we've done a lot of teaching on this. You're going to walk in. Before they give you your ballot, they're going to say you're a Republican, right? Or you're going to vote Democrat? Okay. And they'll just put a little mark or a check. Okay, here's your ballot. They'll just check it and hand it to you. What have they done? You didn't do. They forced adjudicated your ballot, and you don't even know it.
Wow. So what can you ask
You
for?
immediately ask for a replacement. Say, do not mark on my ballot.
Yeah.
They are intentionally marking on it because the machine picks up any stray mark anywhere. They'll tell you it only reads the ovals. Total lie.
Right.
Total bullshit con lie.
Wow.
So you've got to be aware of that.
Okay.
So the way we're going to fight this right now is the last thing that I suggest is the following. Go and look up at U.S. Immigration and Department of Homeland Security how much from the time Joe Biden came in to today, the most current number of how much they've spent on dealing with illegals.
It's billions.
It is billions, okay?
Of our Social Security and
Right.
Medicaid.
Now, write that number down. You're going to take that number and you're going to divide it basically by 330 million citizens. That number is going to be about $19,000, hypothetically.
Okay.
Okay? So now you got $19,000. You're going to write that down. Stay with me. You're going to then go to your state. You're going to look up how much your state in the same amount of time has spent on illegals for your state. They have a different number. You're going to do that. You're going to divide it by the citizens in your state. Then you're going to do the same thing for your city. Some cities like Austin have a lot more. You're going to total it up. When you total up that number, you are going to conceivably be in somewhere between $37,000 and $69,000 of debt that the government has committed you to. Now, here's the deal. They are breaking the laws by not enforcing immigration.
Right.
It's on the books. They are breaking laws by allowing illegals to vote. It's on the books. So the reason you do that number is because you have to prove you've been damaged.
Right.
That's standing.
Yes, that's your standing. And so once you do the simple math and you find out how much they're spending on illegals in your town, in your state, and the government, you say, I, Mark Smith, have been damaged this amount of money because here's why. And
Because here's why. I won't be getting my 401k, nor my Social Security, nor any Medicaid
Plus I'm
because
in
they
debt.
gave it to the illegals to vote for them. So
Well, hang on,
I
but-
am damaged, and here's my standing.
you got to do damages in money. But I do a little different twist on that.
What?
I've been damaged because my county and my state and my country is not enforcing illegal immigration. Then I want you to add a second part to that. Now,
What?
this is key.
What?
I want you to say, as a citizen, I believe our country is also damaging migrants. Now, I know you hate that term, but bear with me.
No, but it's true.
But hang on. Ready? Don't call them illegals.
Okay.
Use their language
Migrants.
and then say,
Because they are.
Yes, my state does automatic motor voter registration, and they are sending migrants who are not citizens voter registration cards. They are leading the migrants to believe they can vote, although our Constitution and state law says you can't vote if you're not a citizen. So the
That's
unintended consequences is a migrant might be led to believe they can vote,
When
and
they
that's
can't.
subject to immediate deportation. Now, what you've done is you've played the victim card for the migrant. Now, what you're doing is you're taking that piece of paper. You do not need an attorney to do this. And you can file for what's called a TRO, a temporary restraining order. And you can go down to your courthouse, see a judge, and I want to file a temporary restraining order on my county election officials, my Secretary of State. You can do all of them and should. And I want to temporarily restrict them from printing the ballots. Why? Because they can't confirm who is an American citizen or not. We have an unintended loophole which could lead innocent people to believe they can vote, which will subject them to deportation, which increase my cost and damages. We need to suspend the printing of the ballots and verify our voter rolls are truly American citizens.
And everybody should do this in their
Everybody
own city.
should do
and
it.
town.
Bravo, boy! You went down that
Everybody
wormhole
should
and
do it.
figured it out.
That's the simplest way to do it. We
All
have those
I
rights.
do all day is try to figure out the
We
wormhole.
have those rights.
but
That's the way
you
to
did
do it.
And here's what happens. When 5 people in a city or neighborhood do it, what do you automatically get? Class action.
Yes.
I knew it was a class action. I knew it was coming.
But you have to claim your rights.
Is there a way to write
But
this
that's
even more succinct
standing,
where we
so
can
that
send
brings
this
the
out?
whole-
No. Here's the deal.
What
Everybody,
about
I'm not being one of those
Brunson?
Republicans.
I wanna
no, I'm telling you. Hold on.
Wait, I
You're
gotta
gonna-
have a cigarette.
You're gonna
Jake
hear-
won't let me smoke in the fucking house.
It's an Airbnb.
You're gonna have people say, "Well, can't you just write this up for me?" No, that's the death knell. If you have to do it yourself in your own
No,
words.
I just
or it's
mean
not
like,
legal.
do I go after the Attorney General?
All
the
of
sen-
them. All of them.
But is there a list of who to go after?
It's everybody who runs your elections, your county recorders,
Where do I
your board
write
of
that?
supervisors,
Everybody
your
who runs the
governors,
election?
your Secretary of States. It's everybody. You're telling them cease and desist, and all you're doing is you cannot print the election ballots until you can prove that every ballot printed is for and given to an actual citizen of the United States of America.
Amen.
And if enough of us do that, not only can we get momentum, and a judge rules only on the law, you have to, though, show the unintended consequences of unchecked and enforced immigration laws. And don't call them illegals, and don't bitch and moan, and don't cuss, and say, we have created something that will take innocent people and accidentally turn them into criminals and deport them because it's just a loophole. So the way we clean this up is I want a temporary restraining order from printing the ballots, and our cities, our town, our precincts must confirm everybody they've got on the roll is an American citizen, and it can be done.
Can you also say it's damaging that these...
You have to claim damages to even get a TRO.
But can you say it's a damage that these ballots that'll be printed could be used in an election fraud scheme
You can.
and go against your vote?
Well, I
So
wouldn't.
okay.
And here's why. Because you said election fraud.
Right.
And yes, I do believe that the ballot is more than a ballot. It's a contract.
Mm-hmm.
And it allows them to bind you and force you to pay money, which is the legal term of racketeering with the mafia and extortion. I wouldn't go there.
Okay.
And the reason I wouldn't go there is because you're working it into specifically elections and fraud, and they've already been taught they can kick it to the curb. No. These are my damages based on the non-enforcing immigration laws.
Okay.
That's your damages. And oh, by the way, we are setting these people up
To be deported.
to be criminals, and they don't know it.
Right.
And if they get voter registration through motor voter, they're going to vote, and they could be deported. And I don't want those poor people to be victimized.
Right.
That's the TR. Keep it as simple as that.
Okay.
All you're trying to force is a suspension of the printing of the ballots until at a point in time, you or the plaintiffs can be convinced that they have done everything they can to make sure
Okay.
that the person on the voter roll is an American citizen.
I think it's
That's
a good
the
idea.
easiest way to do it. It's easy law. We all have those same rights. You don't even need attorneys to do it. You can look up line to do it. Everybody has the right
Why
to do
doesn't
it.
Trump tell people to do this?
Well, a couple of reasons. I've had this discussion. Number one,
He should. Election interference?
I would not want President Trump to have to get off of his talking points for the country of what he needs to fix by having to battle this battle. Could we get key pundits to support this? You know, here you got you and your mom. That's why I said this is you, baby. This is key.
Yeah.
If we can get other podcasters and broadcasters to discuss it and let me take them through the steps, that's what we need to do. But if you were to even get President Trump to say this, they'll make it about him.
Right.
He will spend his time trying to defend it, and it will take him off the campaign trail, and I wouldn't do that to him.
Okay. Fair
That
enough.
would be it. But again, not about elections.
Right.
It's about I've been damaged because you haven't enforced state and federal law. It's in our Constitution. You can't vote.
Words matter. We should use words
That's right.
on our...
We have to use the exact words.
She says
but
this
part
every
of this
week.
is hijacking their words. Don't call them illegals. Say
Migrants.
the poor migrants, when they get motor voter and they're led to believe they can vote, they're violating their own right to be here and can be deported.
It's true, though.
It is true. But be specific. Nothing over fantastical, very simple. Here's laws, boom, boom, boom. But we know they're not enforcing laws they're supposed to. We know each state does not allow illegals to vote. And we know
Right.
as a nation, it doesn't allow illegals to vote.
Right.
That's the damages. Why? If illegals don't vote and you're letting them in, here's how much I'm having to pay for illegals because you're not doing the laws. And oh, by the way, since you're letting them in and they're getting registered, you're making them to criminals and we all hurt. We need to stop it now.
That's right.
Simple,
Brilliant.
temporary restraining
You got
order.
your
Grandmas
marching
can
orders.
do that.
Yes, they
Everybody
can.
has to do it
Yes.
because they're
It's
going to
simple.
ignore most of us. We have to keep
It's
doing
it's
it.
the war of 1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah.
A lawmaker is not going to do this. They're not going to fix it. They're not going to want to touch it. And if you're relying on a lawmaker to fix this, you're screwed.
Right.
Period.
Well, they're
Even
not
like the
gonna fix
hand counts.
nothing.
You hear about some of these hand counts they're going to go on. Here's what they're not telling you. Yeah, they got an agreement to do a hand count, but the county still has to use the machines by law because they're under a contract. You know what they didn't do? They didn't get a contract that says the hand count should be used over the machine
Supersede.
count. So they're going to still defer to the machine count. It's all
So
smoke and mirrors.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
crap.
Wow. All right.
Well,
I'm
you
blown.
gave us a lot to think
Mind
about. You gave
fucking
us a
blown.
way to go. We're going to keep pushing it, too.
Yes. We are the solution. We're the cure we've been waiting for. We're the army we've been waiting for. And no, President Trump is still not the president running the government. And this is all a sting to see what happens. We're
I
it,
told
folks.
you.
We are freaking it. Let me do that one real quick. A lot
No,
of
you're
people,
right.
I hear very smart people say, President Trump's still
She
So
says
president, hang on. Hang on.
I don't say he's president.
I'm gonna
I said he's commander in chief.
okay, I'm gonna give you some reasoning on that. I just want you to think about it.
Okay.
All right.
Okay? I hear all the time people say, Q's got this and blah, 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 whatever. I just want to explain one thing to you. Let's just run that trap through what we forgot is critical thinking.
I just got a whole new update on it, so go ahead.
Okay. Okay. First off, we got 1 million people in our armed forces and stuff. And people are saying, well, Trump really runs it. He really commands the army. The first thing
He don't command the army.
Okay, but hold on. Just hold on.
Okay, he only commands Space Force.
Hold on.
Okay,
Hold on.
all right.
It's still military. Let's just use the term military. Can we
Okay.
agree?
Yes.
We got 1 million people in our military. Okay? To think that President Trump has any under his command means he's paying them, moving them, and deploying them. So you got to ask yourself a question. Who's paying all these people? Because it's $1 trillion, right? A billion, massive billions.
We are.
Well, hang on.
Okay.
That money's not being shifted if Trump's involved. There is no way that money's going out of the Treasury and everybody's keeping it secret that Trump really runs it. That's too many people. It can't be done. And those people will be screaming because they're not getting paid. That's the first thing you need to understand. You just got to understand it. Okay? You got to follow the money trail, and it works on both sides. There is no logical way you can tell me that he's controlling a certain amount of the military and they're still getting paid in Detroit. Now, they'll point to, but this executive order. An executive order doesn't mean fuck. Follow the check, and are those people getting paid? And they are. Biden administration would not let that happen. Treasury Department would not let that happen. Okay. Now, here comes the second question. People will tell you this was all a test just to expose the evil.
Well,
Yeah.
a lot of people say that.
I got
Get
it.
on the mic.
Let's just play this out.
Okay.
Let's just play it out.
Closer.
Okay.
Because this is the most important question you have to ask yourself.
Okay.
Because I've always called bullshit on Q.
Yeah. me
Okay.
too.
Always. Okay? People don't go on and say, I have a secret to tell you, but you've got to keep it secret. Now, I know I have 1 million followers, but just keep this secret. Here's really what's happening. First, you got to think through the logistics of that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There's no secret there. Now, the second part of it is when you're told,
Well, they never said it was secret.
the next part of it, and you're going to struggle with this. I'm telling you,
Okay.
you're going to do gymnastics with it
No,
in your
I'm
own
gonna tell
head.
you some shit.
I got it, but here's simple logic.
Okay.
For all of that to be true,
Mm-hmm.
and I can tell you from looking Trump in the eyes, it is not true.
Okay.
Okay, but even if you thought it was true, and you thought they could pay all of these people and keep it quiet, which they couldn't do. You can't even keep a fucking press story quiet, okay? Much less that.
That's true.
But then you have to come to the realization they keep on telling you, well, yeah, I know these people died, and I know we had this event, and I know these soldiers died, and I know this, but it's all for a test. You have to come to the Jesus point. I call it a come to Jesus meeting. Would President Trump let anybody die to prove a point?
No,
And
I
I
don't
do
think he
not
would.
believe that.
I don't think he would.
And that would mean you have to accept he's a rat bastard letting people die
Right.
because it's just an experiment to expose it all. And that's not true.
I agree with you, but let me talk to you for a
Get
minute.
closer to that mic.
But we are at war.
Yes, ma'am.
We're in a big ass war.
Yes, ma'am.
Not just a war of information, but a terrestrial war as well.
Everything.
And
At every level.
at every level. And people do die in wars.
You better believe it.
But Trump's last speech to those Bitcoin folk is an eye-opening and amazing speech. Have you watched it?
But which particular part are you saying? We all know we can't go to the digital economy because it can control our money and cut us off. We know we have
well,
problems.
he's kind of laying out an alternative plan to the Great Reset in that speech, which I always felt he was doing anyway.
Now, what's the Great Reset?
Well, that's the WEF. You will own nothing and be happy and live in a cubicle and
Cool. I
be
just
a
wanted to get your
slave-
definition of it,
Be
so I
a
know.
slave
Yes.
in our,
And eat
thing
bugs.
where we eat steak and you eat bugs.
Under the
Right.
guise of making it better for everybody.
Kumbaya.
Yeah.
Chinese democracy
Which you know
Yes.
it's horrible
is
when they do
basically
that.
what it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maoist Chinese
Right.
democracy. And so, the majority of people in our country who vote Democrats are fine. They're fine with that now. They
Yes.
never were before the Democrat Party was. And I knew they were going to do it when I ran as a socialist. I said, oh, these sons of bitches are going to take over the Democrat Party.
Right.
I said, Jill Stein and these sons of bitches, this is the new Democrats.
You're right.
And then I was not surprised at all when Jill Stein joined with Hillary Clinton in 2016 to ask for recounts in all the states where they had the machines rigged, but it didn't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I said then I was right. The socialists, the far left socialists, they did take over the Democrat Party.
Mm-hmm.
And so right now it's they made the left, they normalized it. They normalized the far left and marginalized Americans.
Right.
It's pretty amazing that they marginalized the majority,
Yeah.
Right.
but that's what they do. And then they have their compatriots on the right that help them.
So you think somebody behind this, good guys are in control somewhere?
I think that it's a war of information.
No, I agree with that. But do you think we have good guys behind the scene that are really in control and are guiding this so we learn things? Is that what you think's happening, which is the basis of what I call Q intelligence?
Well, I think the basis of Q intelligence is way bigger than that.
Okay.
I
Tell
don't
me,
think
just
that-
so I have a definition, so I understand. So
I think that's
hear what
the
you're
fairy
saying.
tale Q for mass
Okay.
consumption.
Great. And so what is Q to you?
Q is a military operation about subterranean warfare.
Meaning under the ground.
Yeah,
Literally
because
under
that's
the
where
ground.
all the military bases are
Okay. Okay.
worldwide,
Got it.
and a lot of other things. But first thing Trump did was say he was going to fight human trafficking and all those things.
Which has the euphemism of being underground.
Well, that's what they use as tunnels.
Yeah.
Correct. So does Hamas.
Yeah, all of
yes,
them.
yes.
It's like just
global.
one thing.
Yes.
It's not Hamas and so.
Right.
It's one thing.
Okay.
And so that's where the majority of the soldiers have fought for the last few years, while Q was above ground telling us
Great.
that
Who pays these soldiers?
it's a worldwide alliance.
Okay. Okay. Few things.
And how they're paid, because I've looked at this. If
Okay.
you look at, and I can't really call it up like you can.
okay. No,
I don't
no,
have
no,
that
no.
kind of memory, but sometimes I do. Sometimes it works. When you look at like the assets seized from people who,
Yes. Forfeitures.
forfeitures that went to the Treasury,
Correct.
which Trump signed that,
Correct.
It's almost the exact same number that paid for the military operations.
Okay. Let me throw a few things at you
Okay.
just to consider.
Okay.
I have no problem with anyone in the world that has a belief different than mine, as long as they can explain it and they believe it for them, and that's their right. That's called free will. Here's how kind of how I look at some of the things. Number one, I do know part of the dark money that fights us is a manufactured off the books kitty that when they give illegals social security numbers and these guys go get jobs and get income tax taken out, most of those people are not filing tax returns.
Right.
And so that money goes into a big black hole.
Right.
Statistically, from what I know and have learned, that hole might be about $1.7 trillion at the moment. And it is all cash that has circulated in limbo in our system for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of money to weaponize against us. The other thing I would tell people is I would say, regardless of whether it be savior or destroyer, understand the power of an idea. And here's what I mean by that. If we were to go back in time and we were going to look that when China fell and became communist, there were exactly about 420 communists in the country of China that introduced this concept. So when you understand that on the scale of people, that's about how many ultra high net worth private chefs we have in the United States, about 420, okay? That 420 basically went to work on students and media,
Absolutely.
okay? And what they got with them was another group that was about 43 some odd thousand people. And they got them and said, look, let's join forces. Now that 44,000 number, that's about how many journalists and newscasters we have in the United States. So you understand relative size.
Yeah.
It took only 44,000 people to take over a country of 8 billion.
Absolutely.
And so you have to understand the power of an idea, which at the same time, it means ideas can be strong and given life, but you got to be very careful what you give life to. Now, in my looking at this fight, you know they tried to assassinate me, right?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I'm sorry that they
And
did that.
I was going to ask.
I don't
if
doubt it.
I was gonna
yeah,
ask
they
if
almost
that
got
happened.
me. I mean, I almost didn't survive. I barely survived it.
Well, shit, I don't
But-
want to do it. I don't want you
But
here.
yeah, looking behind you,
Yeah, we have RFK tomorrow too.
I got hit
Oh, shit,
at an
I-
event with a biological weapon that almost killed me, but
my
but
God.
it didn't. So they play serious for this game. But I also got to tell you, what you give life to, you have to think about some of the unintended consequences. And here are the unintended consequences. And the reason I tell people it's about us and about you activating is because of what's called our circle of influence.
Yeah.
And if I was ever to lead you to believe, don't worry about it, they've got this. I
We've
know
talked
one
about
thing.
this
I know
before.
one
I
thing.
know, I
People are
agree
gonna
with you.
people are gonna stand down
I agree with you.
Patriots
because
are in control.
people want other people to handle
Yeah,
it.
they do.
Yeah.
They want to be
And it's
fat
just
and
not
happy.
true. We're it, folks.
Well, I
We
believe
are
that
it.
too.
Well said.
And we have to do it. And we can't, what we got to do is we got to get rock bullshit straight on
Yeah.
with our messaging. You look at the left, they can be pink-headed, blue-headed, 9,000 pounds, one arm, one leg, and screw kids, but they still all stay together.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do not do that on the right. We chase so many things other ways. And we got to get really central on our
Absolutely.
messaging. And the bottom line, folks,
100%.
it's us.
Yes.
It is us.
And it is this time, and you've got to activate and you got to talk. It's only about truth. You've got to be willing to share the word and have the tough discussions. You got to stop cussing at people.
Oh,
right?
hell, I can't do
But,
that.
but
Well,
no,
we're
hang
out.
on.
I'm
You
out.
no, you take no. Here's what I mean. You can't. Yeah, you fucking retard liberal.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah,
you got to say,
uh-huh.
wait a minute.
Libtard's okay,
Right.
though, right?
No.
You fucking,
No,
okay.
just hang on for a
Okay, I
minute.
get
You got to
ya.
say,
I get
look,
ya.
let's just have a discussion because we're all paying more for groceries. We're all paying more for electricity.
You're talking about finding the.
So we got to find the common ground. But
common
here's what
ground,
it
yeah.
is. You might
That's
think,
where-
I hate social media and I don't want to be on social media. Remember
do.
the stuff, get off Facebook, get off Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 2 million of you went over to the I'm a Patriot, more than you're a Patriot, patriot.com,
I know,
you're a
that
Patriot.
makes me
Now, you know
sick.
what happened? Here's what did. You took yourself to a vacuum.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
They took you out of commission
Yeah,
by
they
spreading
did.
that story,
Uh-huh.
and you talk to people that think like you. This is about saving kids. So what I'm telling people is have the guts for your country. When you think about how many ancestors we got that came across countries or came across Russia or came across Germany or came across the fucking prairies with nothing and survived so we could be here,
Yeah.
why can't you at least talk? Because here's the deal. You might be the one person that convinces the one person on the left
That's right.
that we've got to fight together, and it's that one person on the left that fires up 2 million people.
Yeah.
That's
You
what
don't know
that's
what God
I
has
believe.
chosen for you, and when
Yes.
you just
Right.
refuse to even take a step, you are denying God, and you've got to
That
stop it, and
is
you've got to
true.
activate.
Fucking God
We
bless you.
say
just true.
that
Jovan.
same thing. We believe the same as you. We have more in common than we don't.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, we do. We're all in this boat together. I tell people, look, I don't care if you're fucking tranny.
I
Stay
don't
away,
either.
stay away from the kids. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you get away. Look, if we're in the foxhole,
Yeah.
there's no more party. I don't
You're
give
an
a shit
American.
if you're gay. I don't give a shit if you're an atheist.
I
We're
don't either.
fighting to keep America. And as long as you're fighting to keep America, I got your back.
That's right.
Because that is all this is about.
And you know
Because
what
if they
it's-
get us, they're
that's
coming
right.
after you next.
Yep.
Because I'll tell you what, to me, America is about, and I'm very proud to say this. America is the only place, really one of few places, where a bitter old Jewish woman such as myself can have freedom of speech and equal rights.
And not get killed for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the fuck, people?
You better believe it.
Why would you let this go? Why would you let this great nation fall?
We
There's
live in
nothing
the
like it.
Because
greatest
you're so
country in the world.
privileged. Privilege makes you stupid.
Yes, it does.
It does. Makes you eat. Well, Let's save this
greatest
country.
country of the world.
Greatest country in the history of the world.
Mr.
Yes.
Jovan Pulitzer,
What a man.
I can't tell you how much we love you and how much we loved having you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for the gems you spilled here today and for
Thank
your
you.
company
Thank you very much.
and for sharing this planet with me at this exact same time.
We're on it. We're
Godspeed
all
to
chosen.
you.
We are.
We're
What a great
chosen.
message.
message.
We're chosen to raise
And
hell.
I take this seriously.
I can tell.
And this is a bullet and a hill I will certainly die on.
Me too.
Me too.
And I will have no regrets. If they do end up killing me, even though they've tried, I will have no regrets because
Me
what
too.
I'm doing is right for my country.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right. Me too. Like I say, they can kill me if they want, but all I want is 30 seconds to smoke my last cigarette. God bless you.
God bless you. And thank
Come
you.
back.
So you see,
Hey y'all, you need to follow my new page here, youtube.com/@Roseanne Barr Clips.